Do you know that trees in the northern hemisphere actually communicate with trees in the southern hemisphere through their roots? Because the root of a tree can go all the way around the world. Look at the light!
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. 24 hours is a long time in football. It's time to say a very, very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to Mr. Parry.
Yes, and a very good morning to you, Mike. To be honest, the way you've introduced this subject, I'm not sure where you're coming from. Where is the crisis?
Where's the crisis? Okay. Yeah. Well, we've had a manager appointed after a very, very long and extensive after a very long and extensive search, right? A man who was chosen because he was the best man for the job.
Yeah.
A man who was thought to be able to change the psychological profile of the England football team.
Yes.
A man who was going to lead us into the next World Cup. A man who was not just going to be able to qualify for something, but was able to win something.
Right.
Because he was down to earth. You yourself said that he was going to be a fantastic appointment.
I thought it'd be great, yeah.
67 days in, he's gone.
Yes.
He's played one game.
Yes.
He hasn't even had an England game at home. He's the only England manager that's ever been appointed who has not actually been in charge of a game at Wembley.
And he's been in charge of England without conceding a goal.
Indeed, he has, and he has a 100% record. However, as I said to you yesterday, the FA have blundered their way through all of this. They've now found themselves back into...
How have they blundered their way through?
Well, they've blundered through it because I said to you yesterday, should they not have sat this guy down and said, knowing what they know about people who are in the Premier League and knowing what they know about football in this country, should they not have sat down and said, Sam, you may be approached by various nefarious types?
Well, I think you should know that after 40 years as a manager and player.
I was incredulous when you said to me that the FA, after Terry Venables, did not have a code of conduct, did not have anything written into a contract.
They assume that people they take on are honourable men.
Well, that's very idiotic in my view. Football is not full of honourable men. Football is full of people who want to make as much money as possible in as short a time as possible and in the most greedy way as possible. So, here they are. They've got a crisis on their hands. Gareth Southgate has been appointed as the caretaker manager. Now, he was going to be appointed the caretaker manager after Roy Hodgson resigned, but he said he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Now he does want to do it.
Yeah.
So, for me, it is a mess. It shows that the FA don't have a clue what they're doing.
I don't think it is a crisis, you see.
Of course it's a crisis. England haven't got a manager.
No, I think they've averted a crisis. You then went on to talk about the situation being run by the FA and the FA being clueless.
They are clueless.
Well, they're not clueless.
Well, they've appointed a guy who they've had to sack after 67 days.
They weren't to know that he was then going to...
Well, they should have known.
They were not to know. No, how could they have known?
Well, because they're supposed to do due diligence on people. What sort of character references did Sam Allardyce have? You're now saying that you wouldn't even have the guy at Everton. Right?
No, I wouldn't. Well, not in light of what we know now.
Yeah.
I might have had him at Everton before, but I wouldn't have him now.
Don't you think England and the FA should have taken a bit more care about checking into Sam Allardyce and the way he was likely to behave?
No, I don't think you could have done. I mean, everybody knows the way Sam Allardyce is going to behave because we've had him on the football scene for, as I say, 40 years.
Everybody knows, apparently, apart from the FA.
Well, no, because nobody could have predicted that he would have gone to a hotel in Manchester, sat down with a load of people that were introduced to him.
Really?
Well, let me finish. Introduced to him by his agent, and then started talking in the most open and friendly fashion as though he'd known these guys for years and taken them into his confidence. Well, that was a very stupid thing to do.
Well, let me put it another way.
I mean, Sam, remember, is the guy who once told us all that, well, actually, where I really belong is Real Madrid or Barcelona or something like that. Huge arrogance about him, huge self-belief. The two are very indistinguishable sometimes.
They are.
And he's simply, with the title of England manager written across his forehead, he's clearly got a bit too big for his boots and gone out and started putting himself about in a fashion that is completely inappropriate.
Right. Now, if you say that the FA are under no sort of obligation to make sure that the people they appoint are of the right calibre...
Well, they are.
Well, of course they are. So, therefore, on this occasion, they've screwed up, haven't they?
No, because
yes, they have.
No, because everything that Sam Allardyce has done over the 2.5 decades he's been in football management has been above board. There's no way in the world that he had the same sort of reputation as Brian Clough.
That's not the question I'm asking. Nobody's saying that what he did with these guys from the Telegraph was in any way not above board. But what it was unwise. What it was stupid.
Yeah.
What it was greedy. And it brought
but the FA weren't to know that
he should have done. I'm sorry, I disagree with you completely.
Mate, I'm sorry, but we come back to you're hitting a brick wall here. How could the FA possibly have predicted an act of stupidity by Sam Allardyce?
Well, because there are ways of interviewing people and getting people to do do jobs and finding out about people as to how they're likely to react in the future. For example, if you appoint a company chairman, right, as the board of that company, you make sure that the person you're going to appoint is going to behave in a way that you would like him to behave.
Sure.
And there are ways of doing that, and I'm afraid the FA have failed at that particular part of their job.
But there is no fail-safe in that sort of procedure,
Yes, there is.
No, there isn't. So, for instance, the Tory party appoint David Cameron as their leader, OK?
Yes.
He then becomes Prime Minister. He then decided it's a brilliant idea to go and invade Libya to rid them of Colonel Gaddafi.
That's not the same argument.
It is exactly the same.
No, you
it's exactly the same.
Listen, we're never going to be able to get anywhere if you can't put A and B together and make C.
No, I am, Mike. You're just the problem. You're hitting brick walls all the time.
Well, no, I'm hitting you, but you're a brick wall.
David Cameron now has smashed up the Middle East, and we've got this huge problem with
that is nonsense, complete and utter nonsense, and not in any
homeless
way
immigrants floating around Europe and all that. And that was all down to the fact that David Cameron did something that nobody could have foreseen. It was an act of complete stupidity.
No, but that's complete and utter nonsense.
It's not. I'm trying to tell you, you cannot predict people making mistakes in their job.
I'll try and make it simple for you, okay? When you appoint people to very high-level positions...
You don't need to make it simple for me.
Well, I obviously do.
No, you don't, because I can understand.
No, well, you can't understand. I mean, last night
we'll let the listener make
last night we had another one of these brick wall situations because you insisted to me...
No, I've accused you of hitting a brick wall. You can't now accuse me.
Well, no, we had the same situation last night we started the show because you refused to accept my sequence of events, which was that the head of the FA was going to summon Sam Allardyce to Wembley and ask for an explanation.
Yes.
You kept saying, no, what they will do is get the PRs to do that. Your friend Amanda...
Which they did, by the way.
No, they didn't.
No. Oh, yes, they did.
No, they did not.
The first call Sam got...
Look, if you're just going to be ridiculous about this, we're not going to get anywhere.
Mike, I know. The first call Sam got was from somebody from the media department.
Oh, you know that, do you?
Yes, I do know that, yes.
Yes.
To ask if Sam had met anybody, and he said no. And they said, actually, you have, but you didn't know. They were undercover.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right, well, I'm talking about once the story came out. He was summoned before the FA and he was asked to explain himself, right? And as a result of that meeting, he has now left the job.
Yes.
He's apparently gone before he was pushed.
By mutual agreement.
By mutual agreement. We all know he's been sacked, basically. The bottom line is that, the FA have made a mess of the England job for as long as I can remember. Ever since you were there and right up until today. And if you're going to tell me that we're sitting here without an England manager in the midst of a World Cup qualifying campaign and that Gareth Southgate is the answer and that is not a crisis, then I'm going to call for the straitjacket.
No, I don't think Gareth Southgate's the answer, obviously. But the thing is, the FA have bought themselves time, which is good, and they've averted a crisis because
They haven't.
Well, they do. We have an England manager in place, albeit a temporary one.
Why do you insist on defending the FA?
Well, because I think the FA have done as much as they possibly could, and I do think it's a bit sad that people just think that the FA are a punch bag to keep hitting all the time.
Well, I'm sorry, they're very
expensive. Very
expensive punch bag.
They've reacted very well. They've reacted very decisively. Sam Allardyce has gone less than 24 hours after these allegations are first aired. That, I think, shows the smack of firm management. And what we're calling for...
It's a smack of firm management? Are you having a laugh?
No. And what we're always calling for from the FA is the smack of firm management. They've done that. If they were dithering now and saying,
They appointed the wrong guy. Would you not accept that?
They've appointed a guy who has let them down. I accept that.
Do you not accept that he was the wrong choice?
No, I don't accept he was the wrong choice. No, I'm sorry, I don't accept he's the wrong choice at all.
Well, I mean,
you can't predict that he was going to do this.
OK, well, you could predict he could do this because, I mean, if you look into what goes on...
So you could honestly say, I'll tell you what, let's not take on Sam Allardyce because I think he'll be a load of dodgy businessmen within, 60 days of being England manager.
I'm sure there might have been
discussing making $400,000. Yeah. You couldn't possibly have predicted that, you fool.
No, you could.
What a stupid analysis and stupid argument.
If you had any foresight, of course you would see that because if you go into the Football League, you look at the Daily Telegraph story this morning, right? Yeah. The Daily Telegraph is going to be covering over the next few days the football business in this country, right? The football business in this country, according to their report, is corrupt. There are people in the game who are willing to take bungs.
Well, you don't have to be Einstein to have worked that out.
Oh, right. But so you don't have to be Einstein to have worked that out, but you also don't have to have been Einstein to have then made some inquiries about certain individuals and said, would this man be likely to be in that situation, or if he was in that situation, would he walk away from it? And clearly Sam Allardyce was one of those who, if he was offered an extra amount of money to do anything, would have happily done it.
Well, it says here in the headline to the Telegraph, 8 Premier League managers accused of taking transfer bungs.
Yes.
Are you now telling me that you think Sam Allardyce is one of them?
I have no idea if he's one of them. What I'm saying is... What I'm saying is...
You're saying...
That's not what I'm saying.
No, you're saying the FA should have known things about Sam Allardyce.
What I'm saying is the FA...
What things should they have known about him?
What I'm saying is that the FA should know about the business that they're supposed to administrate, right? If they're supposed to know about the football business in this country, they should have their eyes open and their ears open, and they should know about certain individuals and certain things that go on, right? So therefore, they can get a rough idea...
What things were going on they should have been aware of?
Well, read the Telegraph piece and you'll find out.
But they don't name any names.
No, they don't.
And I've just asked you if you know of these.
No, I don't know of these things.
No.
But I'm not running football in this country, Mike.
No.
Okay?
No.
The FA is running football in this country, and they appear to know absolutely sod all about it.
No, you want them to go into a guessing game. If nobody knows, it's a guessing game.
All right, well, how about this then? This is what I said to you yesterday, and I was astonished when you answered me in the negative, when I said, well, surely what they ought to have is a code of conduct and a piece of paper which says to any new manager coming in of the national side, if you are approached by anybody from outside of the England organisation, you must first of all come to us before you meet them, if you wish to meet them, or if you do meet them, you must not agree to do anything at all which involves them paying you money for any services. Yeah. Surely they could put that into a contract and say, just have the 3 million and be happy.
Well, you see, that's like you come
Why
to
wouldn't
start...
they do that?
That's like you come to start with here at TalkSport and then be given a contract to say, by the way, Mike, if you come across any good football stories, could you please tell your listeners on TalkSport before going over to Broadcasting House and telling somebody at the BBC?
It's not the...
It's preposterous.
Well, it's not preposterous.
It is preposterous.
I think you're being incredibly dense about that.
I'm not being dense. I'm just being practical and pragmatic.
I don't know if you're being deliberately dense.
No.
Or whether it's just an act.
No, I'm being pragmatic about
you're not being pragmatic.
The parameters
No, you're not.
the parameters of trust and belief in those you work with.
Yeah, well,
you can't possibly say, I want to investigate whether or not you're a crook. You assume the guy's been around for 40 years without a stain on his name, and there is no stain on Sam Allardyce's name. He is not named as being a manager in this Telegraph report. He has no convictions against him whatsoever of dishonesty, immorality, and therefore the FA say this guy's clean. We'll take him on. They had every right to do that. Every right.
Yeah, but
you're
they were negligent in the way that they appointed him.
You're insinuating that they should have known things about Sam Allardyce which nobody else knew.
I'm saying no. I'm not saying
you
that.
are.
No, I'm saying they should have known about his character and the likelihood of this situation happening. And if it was
no
likely
likelihood
to happen,
of it happening.
Well, of course, there's always a likelihood of it happening. And if they thought about that,
there was no
the point
likelihood
about
of it
this.
happening.
All right, why don't we just ask the audience to see what they think? Because
I agree.
They can agree with Mike Parry sitting here as some kind of defender of the FA who have blundered once again. A manager is gone. England have no manager. 08717 223344. Will somebody please tell Porky to say that he doesn't get employed by the FA anymore? This is TalkSport.
The Two Mikes, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down, when you're strange.
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mikes. We're going to talk to Warren Barton coming up in a little while. We'll get his take on what the disaster that I think England football currently is. Mike Parry doesn't agree with me. He seems to think that the FA have done a sterling job and everything's absolutely fine. Adam says this: Hi, Mike. We are screwed. What an embarrassment for the English football nation. Who do we have now? Steve Bruce. What a joke. And it might well be that Steve Bruce is the guy they go for, right?
Steve Bruce might well be the guy they go for. I mean, look, there's some advantages here. The advantage is that we've got a very weak qualifying group to get to the World Cup in Russia, OK?
Yeah.
So you don't actually need a great manager for the next 4 or 5 games, including the friendly, I think it is against Spain, but the qualifying games against Slovakia and Scotland and Malta and all that. You don't need a really strong manager. So I think the FA should take the opportunity now to spend a bit of time appointing the man they want for the job. You know, Arsene Wenger's said to be giving up his contract at Arsenal. Possibly, although I don't think it'll happen at the end of this season. Would he be available? I wouldn't want a French manager, but some people say he'd be perfect for the job. That's fine. But the Gareth Southgate thing will only illustrate that one of the problems with the position of England manager is it's a part-time job. Yeah. You can go for months without seeing a footballer. You literally go for months without seeing a footballer.
You can't go for months without seeing some dodgy Middle Eastern businessmen or Far Eastern businessmen.
Well, this is why they've got too much time in their hands.
But isn't that why, and I'm sorry to keep going on about this, isn't it why they must, whoever they appoint, make it very, very clear in whichever way they do it, whether it's written into a contract or whatever, that, you know, you cannot make any more money outside of this job. Well, and if you don't like that, then don't take the job.
That's a restriction of labour.
No, it's not.
No, it simply is, honestly. There's no reason why they can't. Everybody in the world is allowed to maximise their earning potentials from whatever job they do. And, you know...
That's not true.
I cited earlier on Gary Lineker as a perfect example. You know, his main job is anchor for the BBC.
Yeah, but he is a freelance operative, right? He works for BT Sport.
Sure.
He works for the BBC.
Sure.
He does commercial opportunity deals. He probably does a bit of after-dinner speaking.
Yep.
He is not employed as a member of staff of any organisation, right?
All right.
Whereas the England manager is employed by the Football Association as a staff job.
Yes, but that should not preclude him from being able, because he's got the pinnacle job in English English football, that should not preclude him from being able to commercially benefit from his job. I
don't think he should.
You know when Joe say...
If you need $3 million a year, you should not be able to get any more money by doing dodgy deals elsewhere.
Well, I think that's the politics of envy. Dodgy deals, of course, he should not be doing.
Of envy.
No. Let's examine what you've just said. Of course, you should not be able to do dodgy deals, but there's nothing wrong with doing straightforward deals.
Really?
When Joe say Mourinho,
for example, do you think it's a great idea when we're watching the Euros and watching Joe Hart letting goal after goal in, and then at half time up he pops going, my head and shoulders are okay. Well, unfortunately, your gloves aren't, mate. I don't want to see him doing adverts for Head and Shoulders. I don't want to see Sam Allardyce doing adverts for anything either.
Well, Joe Hart did adverts for Head and Shoulders, and the result of that is he's no longer Manchester City's goalkeeper.
Yeah, but he shouldn't be able to do it. That's my point.
Well, that's up to him. It's his decision. It's a free world, and there's no restrictions on labour in this country. If he chooses to be deflected by commercial opportunities outside of the game, and it cost him his job, that's his problem. That's what happened. Yeah. Sam Allardyce has to make a decision, and if he felt that... I mean, you've got to remember that the blanket cover to all this was he was going to be giving leadership speeches to businessmen, very rich businessmen in Singapore and China. Yeah. That was the blanket coverage of why he was going outside. There would have been nothing wrong with that.
Well, a very good point that was made by Henry Winter today on Hawksby and Jacobs was that if he wants to give leadership speeches, why does he do them at St George's Park? Why don't they build that into his job description? Why don't they say to him, look, if you're such a big leader, then you should be teaching people who are lower down in the football family in this country.
I think he did.
And you should do that instead. Anyway, let's go to the phones. We've got Craig, who's a Liverpool fan, who wants to say something. Craig, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Mark. How are you doing?
Hello,
Craig. Very well. What would you like
mate.
to say, Craig?
Honestly, I heard it breaking this morning, and I'm absolutely devastated what's happened. I'm not surprised by Sam Allardyce because I've got to be careful what I say here, but he was accused a long time ago of taking bribes when he was at Bolton.
Yeah, but he was cleared of that, though, wasn't he?
Who's this?
I mean, the police. Yeah, but that's not the issue, Craig.
He's let the England blazer down, and he's let the Three Lions down.
He has, exactly.
And to be honest, what chairman would employ him now? I don't think he should be allowed in football, to be honest.
Well, you say that, Craig, but believe me, skins are very thick in football. The chairman might come along. I mean, look, you've seen chairmen, Craig, who've actually gone and chased footballers who've come out of jail for offences they've committed and this sort of thing. There's a very, very low moral bar in the world of football, believe me.
Which is precisely why, Craig, when you appoint an England manager, you have to ensure, if they're too stupid to know the difference themselves, that they need to be told there are certain things they can't do.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Mark, I think the England job it's a poison chalice. I mean, everybody else must be laughing at England again now. I mean, the thing is, we've got probably the best footballers in world football, if you take your foreigners away, and we just need somebody who's going to be honest.
It doesn't need to be a poison chalice. It doesn't need to be a poison chalice, Craig. I mean, the point is that
it is a poison chalice.
The one point that MG makes, which is quite sensible and proper, is that he is the highest paid football coach in the world, international football coach in the world. That should be enough for him. However, on the terms of his job, he can go off and make leadership speeches if he wants. What he can't do is go around advising people on how to bend the rules or circumnavigate rules into acquiring money through the rules of the game not being properly adhered to. You can't do that.
No,
and that's
exactly right.
what he's done.
Well, how about this from Lee, who says, MG and Porky, a contract saying you work for the FA, you cannot take any other cash-paying jobs or do other interviews outside of your work with the FA would have put a stop to all this. And he's right, and I don't understand
Except
why they
that you wouldn't get a great international manager who would agree to a contract like that.
Well, maybe it's time that they completely reshot the whole idea of it.
Every coach in the world has commercial sidelines to his employment for a club or a country.
But every coach in the world does not get paid the kind of money that the FA have been paying England coaches for the last God knows how many years. Let's talk to Derek, who's in Glasgow. Hi, Derek.
Hi there, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you.
What would you like to say, Derek?
I would actually like, on this occasion, to defend Porky.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, MG... At what point does the FA draw a line under things that they tell the England manager not to do? Is it a case of, well, don't walk down Oxford Street with a nude with a top hat on? It's like...
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
absolutely right.
Well, it's very simple, Derek. What do you do for a living, Derek?
I'm a trader.
You're a trader. Do you have to apply by the rules when you're a trader?
Of course I do,
Do you know what those rules are?
Yes, I know what the rules are specifically written down, but there are also rules that I don't have to be told.
Okay.
It's like, don't embarrass your employer.
Right.
Don't do basic things that's going to embarrass not only your employer, but yourself.
Uh-huh. Right. So when you're involved in a very high-profile job like the manager of the England football team, and you are paid £3 million a year, surely at some point, whether it was verbal or whether in my view it should be written down, somebody should have had a conversation with Sam Allardyce and said on the QT,
mate,
we know that the Premier League. Hang on, we know the Premier League is a slightly different business from what you're about to do, but this is a position of some influence and a position of trust, and you have to behave slightly differently than you would as a Premier League manager. If they didn't have that conversation with them, they are negligent.
Mike, you've answered your own point. You're saying it's a very senior position. He's been paid £3 million a year.
Yeah.
At some point, people have to expect, well, he's getting paid £3 million a year. He must be a very intelligent senior guy. He shouldn't have to be told, don't embarrass.
Well, they got it wrong, though, didn't they?
No, exactly. But
Well,
let Derek finish.
but they got
There's
that
a
wrong.
level of behaviour, Derek, expected in that sort of position, and the FA interview people who have worked at the highest levels in football and who understand the moral code, and they expect them to adhere to that moral code.
And Mike G, you've got a great job at TalkSport there, okay?
Yeah.
Do you think you would get away with walking down a street in London with a T-shirt advertising their direct competitors tomorrow? Would you have to be told, is it in your contract, don't do that?
Well, it wouldn't be in my contract not to do that because they don't give you those kind of restrictions. It's not a very good example.
No, but
and I could walk down.
Of course it is, because Derek's saying you know what's right and what's wrong.
No, I made the correct analogy. No, Derek, I made the correct analogy last night, and the contract I have with TalkSport actually does specify what you can't do. Okay, it does.
Does it also specify that you can't walk down Oxford Street nude with a top hat on? No, but
no, it doesn't, because I would never do that, and I don't think anyone would thank me for doing it, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
because it would be a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah.
Exactly what.
But I'm not the England manager. I am not a very highly paid, what you might regard as public official. It's a public official's position that Sam Allardyce had, and he did it in such a way that he's now out of a job after 67 days. And I say the FA should have known better, either by not appointing a man who was likely to behave like that, or to tell him. Well, I mean, sensible people know exactly where you draw the line.
No, Derek.
You shouldn't do.
Derek, you and I think in the same way. Mike's got a bit of a sort of block in his head about this one, but Derek, I appreciate you for calling and supporting the popular view.
I don't know what's going on with Porky tonight, Derek. He's very calm.
No, not
I
at
think
all.
He must have been on the old
Kurt
Xanax.
Kurt sends me a tweet which says, "Old MG has no idea on football. Blaming the FA is ridiculous as well."
These are all the same people, right?
Listen to Porky.
These are all the same. These are all the same people who were saying last night, this will all blow over. This will all blow over. You're making a mountain out of a molehill.
This is what Kurt says. Kurt says, listen to Porky.
Well, listen to Porky. I'm very happy. Okay. I mean, you're bizarrely calm tonight.
Well,
what is going on with you?
No, I just feel sound in my argument, Mike, and I'm letting you let off a bit of steam because it's coming out your ears.
Because I don't like the FA.
Lost your way.
I don't like the FA and English football to look ridiculous, and that's what it now looks. It looks completely and utterly ridiculous.
I think it looks like they've acted very well and very strongly.
Oh yeah, and they haven't got a manager. Brilliant. This is Talk Sport
on digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
We are at the two mics. We've got loads more coming up, of course. We'll take some more of your calls in a minute. Let's do a few of the tweets that are coming in.
Yep.
Adam says this, can you please tell Porky to stop talking doo-doo? I'm sitting in my car listening.
Really?
So I guess he doesn't actually agree with you.
Yeah, well,
Marcus says
plenty
this.
of them do.
Well, some do as well, yeah. Marcus does. He says, how can you blame the FA for Sam's stupidity? I'm with Porky on this one. Stop picking on the FA MG. Sam is clearly a fool. And so, but here's one from our kid who says, sorry, Porky, got to agree with MG on this one. The England manager should be whiter than white.
And that guy's an Everton fan, so he's doing me in the back there, the fellow Evertonian, yeah.
And Losty says the FA what the FA need to do is tell Sam he needs to help with their investigation, or he won't work in England again. That's an interesting take on it.
Well, I'm not sure he will work in England again.
And Mark says, I wouldn't mind Southgate taking over until the summer with Arsene coming in when his Arsenal contract finishes. I mean, if I was Arsene Wenger, I don't think I'm not sure I'd have much confidence in working for the FA, to be honest.
Well, funny enough, Chris here says, I agree agree with the FA that they're not to blame here. However, they have been a shambles for a while. They said they didn't know much about when Roy was sacked. That's a bit jumble, but I was the biggest critic of the FA for not sacking Roy Hodgson after
Brazil.
No, before Brazil. After which was the tournament before Brazil?
Well, no.
After Ukraine.
No, why would you sack him after Ukraine? He did okay. He just came in before Ukraine started.
What was the one before Ukraine and Brazil?
No.
Oh, sorry, Brazil and then France.
Brazil.
That's right. Yeah, Brazil. You're right.
Brazil.
He should have been sacked after Brazil.
I mean, you've got to try and get the timeline right. He came in just before because, the Italian disappeared.
He inherited somebody else's squad in Ukraine, so we gave him the benefit of the doubt.
And he came in just a couple of months before the Euros.
He was shocking in Brazil and should have been sacked there.
And he did okay at the Euros, but it was when they said he was going to be extended into the Euros in France after the failure in Brazil to actually win a game.
That's right.
That was the problem. Let's talk to Eddie, who's up in... he's actually a Liverpool fan in London. Hi, Eddie.
Hello, how you guys doing?
Yeah, very well indeed. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I support Mike Graham on this one.
Thank you.
I think he's 100% right. I think, I was going to say, when England wanted to appoint Sam Allardyce, they had to approach Sunderland first, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing should have been applied in Allardyce's contract. If he wants to do anything, it has to be run by the FA first.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely right. I don't see how that could be a problem or in any way difficult for the FA to do.
Hang on, can I just point something out here, Eddie? Because I take your point. Of some of the footage that we've seen all day today with Sam Allardyce, he made it absolutely clear to these guys posing as businessmen, the undercover reporters from the Telegraph. He said, you want me to do that? £100,000 for 4 speeches. I will have to clear it with the FA first. OK? I will have to clear it with the FA first.
But he didn't.
Well, he didn't get the chance. He didn't get the chance because the sting was then exposed.
Well, he had the meeting in August.
Yeah.
Right? It's now the end of September.
Yes.
He didn't go to the FA.
Well, he didn't have the chance because...
Oh, well, he was so busy doing what?
They hadn't sent him any dates and asked him which dates they wanted him to go and do the talks.
You know as well as I do.
No, what I'm saying is
if you're going to run something by them, you run it past the principle of it.
I'm now backing up the point you've made. Sam Allardyce said, I will have to clear this with the FA. That is not an issue of him doing extra work outside his FA responsibilities as England coach. The issue is he then started directing them in matters of business affairs which circumnavigated FA rules.
Right.
Allegedly.
Which I presume he wouldn't run that past the FA, would he?
Well, of course he wouldn't run it past the FA. And by the way, I don't know if you saw the whole detail. I don't know if you, but I mean, it was very, very clear. We said last night, wherever you get huge amounts of money corrupts. Okay.
Yeah.
And what Allardyce was talking about in one very succinct clip was he was saying that one agent could make up to £40 million over a summer, right? Yeah. He said, what you do is you actually attach yourself to the agent and then ask for a commission on the agent's commission. Yeah. So the agent's commission is $4 million, and you ask for 5% of $4 million, because the $4 million is 10% of $40 million, the deals.
Right.
And 5% of $4 million actually works out to $200,000. Yeah. So you're not doing badly there for getting a commission on that. So the vast amounts of money involved in football agency now and transfers, £100 million for each Premier League club, were laid bare in that conversation we had with those people.
But the principle behind all of this, and the principle behind me banging on about this whole whiter than white thing,
and you're banging because I noticed your right leg's been sort of wobbling a bit. What's going on?
My right leg's not wobbling at all.
No, it was banging the
You
floor.
can't even see my right leg.
I could feel it banging, and it was a reverberation coming through the desk.
Are you sure you're not feeling some kind of tremor from inside your liver?
No, come on. I mean, I'm being absolutely honest and sensible here. You do have a nervous reflex in your right leg, don't you?
No, I don't.
No, you do.
No, I don't.
You do.
No, I don't.
You do, because when we've worked before, you said that, sometimes your right leg goes.
Your right leg's now going.
Well, I'm imitating your right leg going.
Yeah.
But it does, doesn't it?
I sometimes move my legs around when I'm talking,
This is
What's
what
wrong
I'm
with that?
saying.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with it at all.
Yeah.
But you said I was shuffling around. It wasn't me, it was you. That was all I'm pointing out to the listener.
I didn't say that at all. I said the reason I'm banging on about this, and you decided to use that word in another context, right? You're really irritating me tonight. I don't know what it is.
Well, don't get irritated.
I'm going to start punching you in a minute. Well, I'm getting very wound up now.
Well, this is the last resort of the ignorant. It is the last resort. Honestly,
no, not of the ignorant. No,
to start threatening physical violence.
Not of the ignorant. No, the point is right. That the reason
why
you're
losing the argument
I'm not. The reason why I'm going on about this is because basically we know that the football world has all sorts of strange things going on within it. Right? We know, and we will find out presumably later on from the Telegraph stories that have been put out this week. That there are commissions made on commissions. there are people getting paid monies which disappear.
Absolutely.
There are people not paying tax on things, right?
Yeah.
So because of that, because the English FA are in charge of the business of football in this country, they should be even more careful to, when they appoint a manager, make it incredibly clear to them that they cannot do anything outside which is liable to bring them into disrepute.
Well,
therefore, they give them a cast iron contract, they give them 3 million or 5 million, whatever it is, and they say, you can't do anything else.
Well,
that is not a restraint of trade, it is common sense.
All I can say is, if Sam Allardyce ever appeared in front of a judge in a court, the judge would use the stock expression, a man without a stain on his character. And when you've got a man without a stain on his character, you don't normally say, by the way, we don't want you to stain your character now that you're working for us. You don't normally say that.
But you have to take extraordinary measures because of the business that you are in. The fact is that football, by all accounts, has got corruption in it. Would you agree?
You would have to say that where huge amounts of money are concerned, and you and I came on to this point last night, there will always be problems with people misappropriating it or trying to misappropriate that money. Getting back to the Telegraph, which people are going to see tomorrow morning. Now, you and I as journalists have already made this observation, OK?
Yeah.
The Daily Telegraph tomorrow morning, the top half page, as Sam Allardyce quits in disgrace. So, I mean, that is a major scoop of a story.
Yeah.
And by the way, when the Daily Telegraph exposed the MPs fiddling their expenses and all that, they were actually given that in a series of discs and tapes which were sold to them by a guy who was hawking it around Fleet Street, and they were the first to make the decision to take it.
Who had committed an offence by misappropriating them, shall we say.
Absolutely. So what I'm saying is, that wasn't an act of great journalism instigated by the Daily Telegraph. They got lucky in buying stuff which was gold, OK?
Yeah.
Now, this is different. This is an act of great investigative journalism, and what they've done is they have clearly taken on people who are specialists in this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because this is not a normal Daily Telegraph story.
No.
This is a Sunday tabloid investigation of the highest order.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if some of the people from the former News of the World, which closed down 3 or 4 years ago now, had been involved in this in some way, because it's an extremely skillful job to try and get people like Sam Allardyce, who should be aware of their surroundings, to get people like Sam Allardyce to take them into your confidence and get them to start speaking like he did. It's a very skillful job. Now, the point I'm making here is their story tomorrow, and this is where I'm at odds with the Telegraph. It says 8 Premier League managers accused of taking transfer bungs, but they do not name one.
No.
Now, that to me is a difficulty in credibility of the story. A, there's no names, but B, in my view, if I was a Premier League manager managing a Premier League club now, I would ring up the Telegraph and say, could you make it absolutely clear, please, that me, manager of Club X, is not one of the 8 that you have not named?
Yeah.
Because that, I think, is very unfair.
Well, maybe they will name them later in the week. Maybe there's a reason why they're doing it this way.
Well, if they don't by the end of the week, and I'm a Premier League manager working for a club, and I am in no way implicated in this, I might very well be talking to my lawyers about by association problems with this story in the Daily Telegraph.
No, absolutely right. But I think what you're seeing with the culture of football in this country is that it's, the culture of the bung and the culture of the misappropriated sort of commission is probably quite much more widespread than we know.
Sure it is.
And so there may be lots and lots of people who are in the position of actually thinking to themselves, you know what, maybe I did do something slightly wrong before.
Yeah.
I mean, people are already, talking about Nigel Pearson's suspension from Derby County.
Oh, I mean, that's...
And he's been suspended for non-footballing reasons.
No, this is amazing.
Now, it could have absolutely nothing to do with any of this.
It probably has nothing to do with this, but I mean...
But he's already now...
How do we know?
He's already now being linked with it, which is very unfair on him.
Very unfair.
Because he may not have anything to do with it. Anyway, we've got loads more to do. We've got talk sport calls to take. We've got Mark Donaldson to talk to. We're going to talk about Leicester. We're going to talk about Spurs. One final tweet here. Here's one from Zobon, who says something in the FA contract that's not right, and it's time to restructure that contract. And Scott says, I take it Porky has had no sleep again. His argument is ridiculous. Rule 1 is don't bite the hand that feeds you. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
And obviously very proud to be named the New England manager today, and really look forward to the task in hand and trying to qualify first for the World Cup and then move on from there.
Get that smile. Excuse me, I can't stop smiling because I've got this job.
Here it is. It is in the 5th minute of stoppage time. Sam Allardyce is off to a winning start.
Breaking news, the Football Association is awaiting further information after allegations were made against the England manager Sam Allardyce by the Daily Telegraph.
What I'm suggesting is that there is a massive hole in his integrity by the way he behaved here.
So we have to be very careful as well, because we live in a society is very quick always to accuse people without proving that they have done anything wrong. So you have to give everybody the credit, and Sam Allardyce as well, until they are proven that they have done something wrong.
Sam Allardyce faces a fight to remain at the helm as the FA investigates secretly filmed conversations which appear to show him making a variety of controversial comments to undercover reporters.
The contract we were 30-40 million at 10%.
Yeah, I understand.
And you've done a deal with the agent where you get 5% of the agent's fee, which is massive for doing about 2 hours work.
Sam Allardyce has lost his job as the England manager. Under 24 hours since the Daily Telegraph newspaper dropped with extraordinary, breathtaking revelations.
Let's have it straight. He is not a victim in this. There will be people who blame the press. That is a bit like criticising a detective for unearthing a crime and solving that crime.
In the light of the media allegations that we've seen, we've concluded, and Sam's agreed, that his behaviour's been inappropriate and frankly not what is expected of an England manager, discussing a range of issues that frankly just don't work when you're the manager of England.
Do you think there's any human tragedy here, Mike?
Human tragedy for Sam Allardyce?
Yes.
Not really, no. I think he is a man who was kind of brought down by his own arrogance, really.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with that. But, I mean, do you think that, you see, the point a lot of people are making, and those first 2 quotes from him, oh, it's my dream job and all that.
I can't stop smiling.
Yeah, and one thing gave it away. The FA put out a bit of a rider to try and sell tickets for the next England game against,
Malta.
Malta at home,
Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
Well, it would have been his first England game at Wembley, wouldn't it?
It would. The only England manager who never led a team out at Wembley is another great one of those.
Although somebody actually sent a tweet in and said
Mm.
I didn't think Sven actually led a team out at Wembley.
Sorry?
He said didn't think Sven actually led a team out at Wembley.
No, that's because Wembley was knocked down at the time.
What I mean.
Yeah, but you know, you're absolutely right. But anyway, the point I'm making is one of the lines in that was they got a quote from him, you know, nice gentle quote saying, you know, my first match at... sorry, I'm trying to do Sam Allardyce.
Yeah.
It's more of a West Country accent, a Dudley boy. My first
West
match
Country?
Black Country, sorry. My first match at Wembley, that will be very special for me. No, it should have left it just at very special.
Yeah.
Because it's very special for the country, it's very special for the players,
and the fans.
It's very special for the fans, very special for Wembley, but he said it would be very special for me.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at tomorrow morning's papers, right? One of my favourite writers is Martin Samuel on the Daily Mail, always has been, and the headline that goes across the top of his piece, a piteous figure undone by greed. And he asks this one, and this is great. What is so mystifying about the events of the last 24 hours? It's all been so unnecessary. Allardyce could not have appeared to have been happier with the way his life had turned out. The FA are loyal employers, some might even say too easily pleased.
Yes.
Which is part of your argument.
Yes, it is.
What was he looking for around that table at London's Mayfair Hotel? What more could he possibly want?
Yeah.
No sooner had Allardyce got his new motivational messages up at St George's Park, the journey starts here, then he was looking to make his own journey and line his pockets further.
Yeah, and that is, I suppose, the Greek tragedy of it all.
Exactly.
Because, you know, often in these situations, it is the man who himself is at the centre of it all who makes it all collapse around him.
Unbelievable.
And that's what he's done.
He's pulled the walls down on himself.
I find it very difficult to feel sympathy for him, I have to say.
Yes, I do as well.
Because he's let down a lot of people. He's let down a lot of the fans.
That is a great point.
He has put the England football world once again into a state of turmoil.
Yeah.
You know, you say you don't think it's a crisis, I think it is. But I mean, the point is that, you know, as Martin Samuel says, it's all so needless. Why did he have to do it?
So utterly needless. And now another thing about Sam's character, right? We've already said that, you know, a few years ago he said, "Oh, yeah, I should be managing Real Madrid." So he's got a total arrogance about himself.
Does. Yeah.
But you know, this one I've just told you about, it'd be a very special for me night when I'm leaning out. But when he came out tonight, I wonder whether he illustrated the fact that he's a bit of a bully.
Yeah.
Because he's in this white Range Rover, what you'd call a massive, great, you know, F-off car, as we call it.
Yeah.
No, blinged up car.
Blinged up.
And he's coming out and he's driving, and yet he's covering his face in a way that I would have expected Burke and Hare to have covered their faces in shame when the mob came after them because they're found to be body snatchers, you know? Yeah. And in a way, Sam was a bit of a body snatcher. Sam was really snatching the fruits of the job of being England manager and he was burying them or he was desecrating them or something like that, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I mean, a bolder man, in my view, a man who, you know, thought, OK, I made a misjudgment, but I will hold my head up high, would have driven out there tonight. Maybe he wouldn't have stopped and talked to people, but he certainly wouldn't have started. He looked like, you know, how often have you and I been stand outside a Crown Court?
He looked like what they call in America the perp, didn't he?
The perp, yeah. How many times we've stood outside a Crown Court and we've seen, you know, the accused get out the back of a taxi, put his briefcase over his face, head down, you know, with his solicitor covering his shoulders and smuggle him into. He looked like a guilty man.
He did. And I'm afraid he probably is by that particular situation.
Exactly.
The one thing we don't know yet, I suppose, and I don't know whether we'll find out in the coming days, is whether the FA will have paid him off. Because if the FA pay him off in some way,
doubt it very much.
I would be absolutely even more convinced.
Well, the country will be outraged.
That they don't know what they're doing.
The country will be outraged. It says by mutual consent.
Yeah.
That might open the door to a mutual severance payment, I suppose.
But that's my point. I mean, the FA surely now have got to think about the whole business of appointing managers. Yeah. They're going to have to reshape everything that they do, surely.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, here's this from Adrian. The football is bent. Billions from the media, billions from Chinese, the US, Russian investors, UEFA and FIFA are bent. The FA needs to wake up.
Yes.
And, you know, in the current climate, you know, you have to surely be aware of the fact that all around you in football, there are some things going on which should not be going on.
Absolutely. I'm scanning through the papers now, which will land on people's doormats. There's even one suggestion here that during the course of these talks with these people who turned out to be representing the Daily Telegraph rather than a businessman, he made reference to the fact that £100,000 for a speech wasn't too much and that his mate, Sir Alex Ferguson, sometimes got up to £1 million
That's
a
right.
speech.
And did he not also mention that Robbie Williams gets $1.5 million for doing a wedding?
That's right.
I mean, is he putting himself in the same bracket as Robbie Williams now?
I know, Oh, dear me.
James says this, I don't know how true it is. Allardyce drinks pints of wine at business meetings, reportedly. That perhaps more than anything demonstrates the measure of the man.
Who was at the business meeting apart from Sam Allardyce and a few Fleet Street hacks who could keep up with that sort of thing?
I don't know exactly, but I mean, imagine drinking pints of wine. Steve says this in a rather tongue-in-cheek way.
Yes.
Sacked from the England job, he must have committed some pretty bad sins in a past life. He attributes that quote to Glenn Hoddle.
Well, yeah, that's a little bit unfair, isn't it?
I'll tell you what I found extraordinary was that BT Sport, I was watching earlier on the Spurs game.
Right.
And Spurs played very well, by the way, and got themselves a win over in CSKA Moscow, which was unexpected, you'd have to say.
Yes.
They had on their panel Glenn Hoddle, Harry Redknapp, and Jermaine Jennings, I think it was.
Right.
And they didn't actually ask Glenn Hoddle or Harry Redknapp about the situation with Sam Allardyce.
Well, there's some talk now in the papers tomorrow morning that Harry Redknapp is already on his way up the A34 to Derby to take over if Nigel Pearson gets the boot tomorrow, as we all expect him to.
Yeah.
Whether or not there's any connection whatsoever with the turmoil involving the England manager and the Nigel Pearson position, relevations in the Daily Telegraph, we have no idea, but we assume not.
No.
We assume that Nigel Pearson's had a row with the boss at Derby.
And it's not easy to work for the boss at Derby. I mean, you have to say, in the defence of Nigel Pearson, who's at the best of times an entertaining figure.
Yes.
I mean, you know, we did have some fun with him when he was at Leicester, didn't we?
Sure. Now, tell me what your view is on Gareth Southgate.
Well, my view on Gareth Southgate is that he's a plodder, basically.
I
he's
agree.
A nice enough guy. He seems to be able to I mean, he got the under-21 team playing quite well, I think, in the summer, didn't they? Did they not win some kind of competition? Better than Stuart Pearce, I suppose, when he was in charge.
Yeah.
But, you know, the thing I find difficult to accept, that he's now the caretaker, is that he was offered the caretaker's job before Sam Allardyce got the job permanently, and he turned it down.
Yeah, but this is a 4-game caretaker job. No, apparently it's a big difference. The 2-game caretaker role was caretaker. What I think he's stretched out here, because he knew that there was a crisis. I think the crisis has been averted because the FA have been firm in what they've done. But he knew that they were on the edge, and he said, I'll do it, but I'll do it for 4 games, and I've got to be a contender for the main job.
Yes.
That's why I think he's taking it now. My problem with Gareth Southgate was, when he was at Middlesbrough, he was hopeless. And almost every interview after a game where he'd lost again and Middlesbrough were plunging into the relegation zone, he brought up the position of his tenure as management being under threat with the interview, not the other way around.
Right.
So he was trying to be, openly honest about, well, of course my job's under threat.
Right.
And that's not the sign of a winner. That's a sign of a guy who's resigned to his fate.
Well, he doesn't fill you with confidence, does he?
Well, not only that.
But also, I think you didn't like the idea, because you've said this in the past, that every time he got fired, he'd go back onto TV and be a pundit.
Exactly.
And then he'd go back to the managerial business. I don't have a problem with that.
Exactly. Well, I do, and that's why I think it's quite ridiculous for people now to be banging the drum and saying, bring Glenn Hoddle back in. Glenn Hoddle hasn't been a football manager for 10 years.
No. There's still people calling for Glenn Hoddle.
I know they are,
Even now.
10 years. And remember, old Gareth Southgate only recently had his role at the FA downgraded from looking after a number of levels of football, under 17, under 18, to just the under 21.
Right.
So the FA weren't showing much confidence in him then, but they are now.
Well, that's just what I mean by them, grasping at straws and by them being in a crisis.
They had to solve a situation quickly.
Yeah. Well, he is not the answer. I think they'll be better off playing with a player manager at this point. And we'll talk some more as well about the Derby situation, because this will be, since Steve McLaren left the club in May 2015, right? Paul Clement was there. Temporary boss Darren Wassell was in. Now Pearson's left. And it'll be the fourth guy in just over a year and a bit. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mice. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. But we must congratulate Leicester and possibly ourselves, Mr. Parry, on our performance this evening.
Do you know what? Honestly, it's quite amazing that in the turmoil of the football business at the moment, and, we've got the whole mess with Sam Allardyce going, Gareth Southgate taking over, and then Derby are mired in a terrible mess as well. A row between the manager and the owner of the club. The manager, Nigel Pearson, is the former manager of Leicester.
Yes.
And the only sort of shining light, I think, in football at the moment, which is keeping us all warm at night, is Leicester's progress in the Champions League, which is terrific.
Played 2-1-2.
And we all love them.
Yeah.
They're everybody's favourite second club, because not only are they doing, not only did they have a terrific away result in Bruges and now a home result in Bono, but we all love their manager as well, because he's completely the opposite of a brash, arrogant, boastful sort of manager, which some would say Sam Allardyce has been.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the complete antithesis to Nigel Pearson, a rather dark and brooding man who
doesn't really like his players very much, doesn't like journalists.
Absolutely.
Doesn't really like himself very much, I don't think, either.
Absolutely.
But you know what was brilliant was we predicted a 1-0 scoreline.
We did.
And not only that, but also Islam Slimani, who came to Leicester this season, scored a lot of goals for Porto, and we said he might be the guy who gets it.
We did. Not only that, and I'm not blowing our own trumpet here, but I will.
Yeah, I think we ought to.
We also said, we had a discussion panel yesterday, didn't we? And we said, how much will Harry Kane being out for Spurs affect Spurs?
Yeah.
And we said, well, it's Sanos, isn't it?
Yeah.
Their guy.
No.
What's his name?
No.
Sanos.
No, it's not. Oh, you mean Son?
Son. And
Janssen played as well.
And Janssen. That's how I got those two confused.
Yeah.
Janssen and Son. And I said, of the two, I expect Son to fill the gap that Harry Kane has vacated. And guess what? Lo and behold, they go to Moscow, one of the most difficult cities in the world to play in this, because it gets very cold there at this time of the year. And
very hostile as well.
Very hostile. And they win 1-0 and Son scores the goal. So I'm...
and actually, I saw the game and they looked all through the game that they were going to score. I mean, you just thought, if they don't get 3 points here, they will be very, very hard done by.
Yes.
And they played incredibly well, because they had a terrible start,
they did.
having lost to Monaco in the first game at Wembley. And maybe we're going to see Spurs actually playing better abroad than they are at home.
It could be the Wembley effect. But Heung-min Son hits a fifth goal in 5 games to give Tottenham a crucial Champions League win. At the same time, Islam Slimani, the chap you've just been talking about, netted a header to send Leicester to the top of Group G. The idea that Leicester are top of Group G after playing away in Bruges and then playing at home to Porto, who of course won the Champions League under the guidance of Jose Mourinho.
Yes.
That was in Gelsenkirchen,
Was it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they picked such a bizarre stadium in Germany when Germany's got like...
Well, it must have just been on the rotations thing, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even if it was Germany's turn, why did they pick Gelsenkirchen as a revolutionary new stadium? And England played one of their World Cup games there. But nevertheless, Leicester they really are a shining light. I know that they're still trying to find the form that gave them the Premier League title last last season in domestic football, but wow, it seems to me that they could well surprise us all in Europe this year, and it's a terrific result and makes us all feel a lot better.
Well, yeah, you must give great plaudits to Mr. Ranieri.
Indeed.
Now, I've got a great one here from David, who's tweeted out the two mics. He said, did that chap say something about walking down Oxford Street nude with a top hat on?
Yeah.
And he attaches a picture of Screaming Lord Sutch from 1972 doing exactly that.
Yeah.
Walking down Oxford Street in a company of 5 women who are also naked.
Yes, well...
now, I don't think he got thrown out of the Monster Raving Loony Party for that, did he?
He's dead now, isn't he?
He is.
Screaming Lord Sutch, unfortunately. He's quite a colourful character, but I always thought he was a bit of a nuisance, actually, at by-elections. I covered one once that he went to, I don't know why, but he was a bit of an irritant.
Well, this was apparently handing out leaflets for a rock and roll festival which was taking place at Wembley Stadium on August the 5th, in which he was starring. It doesn't say what year it was.
Right, okay.
Or what paper it was in, rather.
Okay. So David says, so the FA made the right approach today, Mr. Parry. Sam Allardyce, what a joke. Make sure we get it right this time. And then says, I nominate Glenn Hoddle. Look, the Glenn Hoddle bandwagon will build up, because there are purists within the football world. And remember, Glenn is of a generation of people like Graham Souness who admire his talents enormously as a footballer. But Glenn's been out of coaching for 10 years. And actually, when he did the job for England, that was the best he was as a coach. He didn't have a great deal of success as a coach. In fact, he was sacked by Spurs. And he was a Spurs hero. Yeah. And so that does say
when we were talking to Andy and Jason earlier, and they said to me, who do you think should get the job? And I actually honestly said, when I did say, to be honest, it doesn't really matter, because we all know what's going to happen. Because for some reason, English football always does the same thing. You always get to, a finals competition and then go out far too early.
Yes, that's right.
Here's one from Scott, which is an interesting point. What about all Sam's backroom staff that he brought in? I wonder what they are thinking now. Well, these are some more people that he's let down, presumably.
Well, of course he's let them down, because I'm not sure whether... Did he bring a raft of them in? I wasn't aware that he had, actually.
Well,
I know
he brought a few in,
I think I think he did, yeah. Well, whether they go or stay, I don't know. It's not their fault, is it, that their boss or their mentor, their leader,
but more than likely,
has gone off and done something so stupid.
But more than likely, Gareth Southgate, even in a temporary situation, will have temporary people in.
Yeah, I would. Well, I mean, remember, he's within the FA family anyway, isn't he, with the under-21 lot? So he'll have a load of assistants there. Whether he wants to promote them and big them up into the next one, I don't know.
Right, exactly right. Kevin says this in defence of the Telegraph. If it wasn't for undercover press, we would never have found out about the cheating by Amir Butt.
Well, this is absolutely right.
In the cricket.
Yeah.
Craig says the next boss needs to be a motivator to massage the players' egos. That's the only way to get the best out of these players.
Yeah.
And David says the biggest tragedy is the collective FA and English public can't find one replacement they think can win games at a tournament.
Yeah.
And that is a tragedy.
Well, we've had that tragedy ever since Alf Ramsey was sacked.
Yeah.
Seriously, trying to find somebody who can emulate. What we'll be doing later in the show is talking to a psychologist about the enormity of the blow that Sam Allardyce has suffered. You see what I mean?
Will we?
Well, yeah. Because,
who are we going to talk to?
Well, don't worry about it. I'm sorting it out.
You're sorting it out,
yeah. But I mean, what I'm saying is
have you got a psychologist on call? Have you?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I'm not worried about it.
I can sort these things out.
Can you?
Yeah. What I'm saying is, although obviously Sam Allardyce is responsible for his own demise and responsible for the pit of despair into which he's now cast himself, nevertheless, when you wake up tomorrow morning, it will be like waking up into a nightmare.
What, for him?
Yes. It'll take him about 5 seconds to realise what's happened the night before.
Right.
That he's not England manager anymore, that he has no need to get out of bed, that if he picks up a newspaper in the next week or so, he's going to be berated as a greedy, avaricious, slightly, dodgy individual who was once given the top job in English football and who spurned it for want of lining his pockets after being given a salary of £3 million a year.
Well, he joins in...
What a shocking position to be in.
He joins in a rather unfortunate rogues gallery of former England managers who have all left under a cloud of one kind or another.
Yes.
I mean, the back page of the Mirror this morning has a great big headline that says, toxic. And above that, England engulfed in a new crisis.
Yeah.
And it's very much about Sam being toxic. He's the one that they're saying is basically no good. Big Sam out on the back. Sam had to go. He's not going to want to read the papers in the morning, is he?
What the Mirror are suggesting, and the name on the story is John Cross, of course, who's a great friend of this station.
He is indeed. Although, interestingly, John Cross at the beginning of the day yesterday put out a tweet saying, I don't think these problems are big enough to fire Sam Allardyce.
I think the wording was actually not done enough to merit being sacked, but he left a knot out somewhere, and John had to correct it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point of the story is, there's an insinuation here that actually it could get worse for Sam.
Yeah.
And that one of the reasons he might have gone is that in the talks with the FA today, when he sat down with Mr. Glenn and the chairman and said, this is shocking, but you better tell us, is there anything worse to come?
Yes.
The answer might have been...
I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly. Or there may be, or something like that,
Exactly right.
Allardyce's contract was terminated after 6-7 days. Gareth Southgate put in charge. Allardyce forced out after being caught in a newspaper sting. Newspaper stings are good things, if they reveal areas of misbehaviour.
Newspaper stings are good things. It's like a haiku.
Yes.
How about this from James? Tell the plank Gelsenkirchen is Schalke's ground and it holds 63,000.
Yes, I know that.
Well, so why wouldn't they hold a final there?
Well, they can hold a final there, but it's not exactly one of the world's great grounds.
You don't think it's a glamour city?
Well, it doesn't come to your mind, does it? When you think of the world's glamour grounds, Gelsenkirchen is not one of them. Schalke is not one of the...
But 63,000 is a very big stadium.
Fine. But, 63,000 people can now fit into...
No, they can't fit into Goodison Park, can they?
No, but about 50,000 can fit into Sunderland. It's not one of the world's top grounds.
OK, we'll see. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Talk Sport, we are the Two Mics. Any idea who that is? You might remember that because it's still kind of era.
That's the Sweet.
No, it's the Hollies. It's got one of the longest titles in the history of pop music.
Let me listen. Little Willy Willy won't go home.
No, that was
the sweet one.
That was the sweet one.
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And Little Willy Willy won't.
That. Well, don't sing over a different
go
song.
Go home.
I don't sing over a different song.
So what song's this?
This is the Hollies, and it's the day that Crazy Willie shot down Sam McGee or something like that. I used to have it. I'm pretty sure I had that single.
Really? Yeah, well, yeah. I wouldn't mind going to see the Hollies. They're on tour as well.
Really?
They're
getting on a bit, aren't they?
I read the culture section of the Sunday Times every week.
Oh, do you? I used to write for the culture section of the Sunday Times.
Yeah, well, that's no reason. It's no wonder you don't anymore.
It's no wonder I don't anymore.
Well, I mean,
it's just another thing that I've done in the halcyon days of my journalistic heyday, which you could never get anywhere near. Because you never worked for a broadsheet, did you?
They've become a bit more sophisticated.
Did you?
Broadsheets?
No, you never
Yes,
did.
I have had pieces published in broadsheets.
Yeah, where?
Yeah. Where?
Yeah.
Well, I can't go into it.
You haven't?
I've had thousands
You've never
of pieces
worked for a
published.
broadsheet. You've worked for lots of tabloids.
Let me tell you.
You've never worked for a broadsheet.
So I look at the culture section of the Times every week because I like to culturise myself.
Sunday to culturise?
Yes, that's right.
Is that a word?
Yes, it is.
Really?
And there's pages and pages and pages of people on tour.
Yeah.
Now, one of these days, you'll see a half page of the Two Mics, and we'll be doing...
Well, because we are on tour.
We get the national tour together and all that when we've got time to do it.
Yeah.
Of course, at the moment, our next target is Sydney, Australia, next July.
Well, actually, our next target is Liverpool.
Yeah, next target is Liverpool, actually, and then Glasgow.
Yeah.
By the way, you know what you've done to me, don't you?
What's that?
We're going to do Glasgow on December the 17th.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Why do you always do this to me?
Do what to you?
We did Bournemouth. We did. Where did we go last week?
Whitley Bay.
Whitley Bay on the day on the 24th of September.
Yeah.
When Everton were playing at Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Just down the coast from me. I could have gone.
But who booked that?
What?
Who booked that?
Well, it was a booking that was made.
You booked it.
What?
You booked it.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, but it's last year. But
no, you booked it.
Yeah, well, it all came last year. Anyway, the point of my story is. On December the 17th, when we have to travel up to Glasgow to do the Grudge, you know what I mean, on Sockhill Street, Everton are playing Liverpool at Goodison Park.
Oh, they really?
I have already got my seat. It's part of my season ticket. I cannot go.
Well, you wouldn't be able to go anyway.
Why?
What's the time? What time's the kick-off?
3:00.
Well, you're working till 1. We're doing the warm-up here on Talk Sport, don't forget, on a Saturday.
But I think it's going to be changed to the evening game.
Oh, really?
Which would be, 5:30?
Well, I guess so.
So I could have got there.
Well, if it changes, yeah, but if you hadn't, you'd still be struggling, wouldn't you?
Or it might be on Sunday. Oh, on Sunday.
Well, if it's on Sunday, you can go.
Can go. I can't fly back from Glasgow to Liverpool.
Yeah?
Is there a flight from Glasgow to Liverpool?
No, but you probably get a train.
Train?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't be too bad. That's the same side of the country, isn't it? Yeah, Glasgow down to Liverpool.
The West Coast main line.
I quite like that. Quite like that idea.
So what are you whinging and moaning about?
But it doesn't go to Liverpool. It goes to Manchester, actually, and then you have to get off at Manchester and get a train to Liverpool.
Well, sort yourself out. It's not my responsibility.
All these sort of things cause me pressure.
Well, don't worry about it. I mean, by the time December rolls around, you'd have hardly seen Everton at all. Because now you're working on a Saturday.
Yeah, that's true.
How about this from Steve?
Yes.
Dodgy, unscrupulous rogue. Sounds like Porky fits the bill.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it, eh? Bit harsh. What I found out today was, by the way, because you asked me earlier, what happened. In fact, they did disseminate the whole of the reports that the Telegraph had submitted, and some that, had published, and some that hadn't been published, and looked at it, and then came to the conclusion there was no way out.
Are you talking about the FA?
Yeah.
Well, do you remember when we talked yesterday on the show?
Yes.
What they suggested was that they weren't going to issue any kind of comment to the Telegraph.
That's right.
Until they'd seen the transcripts of all the conversations.
Absolutely.
And they obviously, having seen those transcripts, decided, as you say, that there was nowhere left to go.
Yes. The verdict, right, I can tell you this exclusively, so to speak. Once it had all been put in front of the bosses at the FA, it's Mr. Glenn and the chairman, the immediate response was, and this is a quote from somebody inside the FA, there's no way we can make a good response to this. We have to address the matter in hand. Yeah. That was what they actually said.
Well, that's what they said internally.
Internally, they said there is no way we can make a good response to this.
Well, what would you have done?
We've got to address the matter in hand.
Knowing what we know and knowing what's happened, I presume you would have done the same thing. I mean, if you were still there in your role as the head of communications, or whatever it was you claimed to have been.
Yes.
What would you have advised the chief executive to do?
To sack Sam Allardyce.
Really?
Because it was indefensible. I'd have gone to Graham Kelly, who was... in fact, actually, I had to do that on a couple of occasions. Yeah. I had to go to Mr. Kelly and advise him how we're going to handle the Paul Merson situation, because Paul Merson had been...
Did you advise him the best thing to do is to leak it first to the papers?
No, not at all. No. I said, perestroika, we have to be open about this.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't... Look, you suddenly got a player, a professional footballer, playing for a club that had won 2 Premier League titles... Yeah. Who had announced he had a cocaine problem, okay? And it's all public knowledge now, of course, but it wasn't then. I mean, this was a bombshell of enormous proportions. And it turned out to be Paul, who fled the country, actually. He was so distraught.
So, the story came out initially but without him being named, is that what you're saying?
No, the story came out because the Daily Mirror got a whisper on it and went and pursued it.
Yeah.
And I think, but I'd be corrected, I think Paul just held his hands up and said, I need help.
Yeah.
And that actually saved his career. Had he gone the other way and said...
Tried to deny it.
Yeah, tried to deny it or anything like that, it would have been a problem. But he then came to the FA and said, I desperately need help, you know, I've got a problem. And that was the way. And so I advised on that, because there were people at the FA who said, Merson must be thrown out the game. And I said, why? And I said, but it's no. And the lucky thing was that cocaine was not on the list of drugs which are performance enhancing.
Right.
It's a social and recreational drug.
But it's still a banned substance.
Still, it's not a banned substance in terms of
well, it's an illegal
enhancing.
Substance. Well, it's a Class A drug. It's an illegal drug.
Absolutely right. It's against the law to take it. That's the point.
Right.
Although strangely not against the rules of professional sport at the time.
Although again, that's one of those things, isn't it?
Yes.
Where you don't need to spell it out. I mean, you were talking earlier about you don't need to spell out the fact that Sam Allardyce shouldn't meet with dodgy people.
That's right.
However, they obviously assume that if you are a professional footballer, you're not allowed to take Class A drugs.
No, exactly.
Even if they're not on the banned list of performance-enhancing drugs.
Exactly. The Bruce Grobbelaar situation, in which Bruce was accused of getting involved in payments to vary the results of football matches, that came from an in-depth investigation by The Sun.
Yeah.
And he was about to get on an aeroplane at Manchester Airport. I think he was flying to South Africa or Zimbabwe. And a Sun reporter walked up to him and said, Mr. Grobbelaar, can I have a quick word with you?
Yeah.
He said, not really. I'm about to get on this aeroplane flying to South Africa. Yeah. And they said, well, we have something we have to put to you. And after reading it for 10 minutes, he said, where did you get all this from? And then the editor of The Sun phoned one of the reporters and spoke directly to Bruce Grobbelaar.
Yeah.
His plane left while he was still in the departure lounge.
Right.
And Bruce Grobbelaar went through 20 questions from the editor of The Sun and answered them one by one and responded. And then another question came and all that. But in the end, he didn't go to South Africa that night.
Right.
he addressed the situation and said, "I've got to sort this out."
Yeah.
So I mean, newspapers have a huge role in these sort of situations and unveiling them.
And also, I mean, yesterday there was a lot of people saying this is a disgrace. You know, once again, I mean, some people even today calling it unpatriotic to go after the England manager.
Yes.
Which is patently an absolute and utterly stupid thing to say.
Of course it is.
Because it's not a question of being it's actually unpatriotic. If anyone's being unpatriotic, it's Sam Allardyce, who's putting the job of England manager into disrepute.
I totally agree.
And putting the whole sort of network of English football in a bad place.
I totally agree. And now you have to say to yourself, OK, we all know where English football's going from here. They kind of put the lid on it by giving it to Gareth Southgate for those 4 games. So, and they're not 4 difficult games, so we shouldn't have a problem
there.
there.
There's some people in Scotland who might disagree with that.
Yes.
You know, England got to play Scotland.
Yeah, I'm not being disrespectful to Scotland.
Is Gareth Southgate the right man to fire up a team against Scotland?
Yeah, well, I'm not being disrespectful to Scotland.
He looks a bit like Ian Duncan Smith to me.
Yeah.
You know, if he was in there saying, the quiet man is rising up the volume.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the kind of thing you see Gareth Southgate doing.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't fancy that Scotland game now at all, to be honest. I might not have fancied it under Sam Allardyce, but I fancy it even less now because what the Scots will do is they'll be fired up by the disarray in which English football's in.
Exactly.
And that'll make them think they've got sort of the moral high ground. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely right. Well, Becky says this from New Zealand. The biggest loser in the Allardyce story is English football.
Yeah.
Especially if the news stories linking more managers and bungs turns out to be true.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I mean, this is not gone away for the FA.
No.
This is just the beginning of what I regard as a rather long and painful process where they're going to have to get to grips with what's been going on in their game, which they administrate and which they're supposed to be in charge of.
I would say, just to clarify that the vast amounts of, the vast majority of money that's introduced in the English game comes through the Premier League.
That's true, but there's still a lot of money in the Championship now as well.
Not a lot, honestly. By comparison,
no.
Tiny.
By comparison, no. But
Tiny.
I bet you any money that a lot of these people that they're referring to in the Telegraph, you know, Premier League managers, maybe former Premier League managers, maybe Premier League players, former Premier League players. You know, some of it will drift down and drip down into the Championship as well.
Yeah, well, I have no doubt about that because you're absolutely right. There's plenty of Premier League managers now playing in the Championship. However, the Premier League are responsible for injecting the money into the game in its hundreds of millions, if not billions. And I'm a bit surprised I haven't heard from Richard Scudamore a bit today.
Yeah.
Not that he is culpable in any way at all of anything except making our league the most efficient in the world and the most profitable. But, you know, he may have a view on it.
Well, he's probably trying to stay well out of it.
I would imagine he is,
keep his nose clean.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
On DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The pressure's on now.
Relieve the itch. Talk Sport.
Back home, they'll be thinking about us when we are far away. Back home, they'll be really behind us in every game we play. They'll share every goal we are scoring out there.
Takes you back to a rather more innocent time, that, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
You know, when money wasn't quite such a big player in the game.
It was 1970.
It was.
And
Mexico.
It was Mexico, and players going out there, and I think their fee for a game was £35.
Yeah.
Which
and
they
remember
kept.
the Bobby Moore bracelet episode?
Well, in Bogota.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was never guilty of that. That was
so
stitched up by
by
the overseas authorities. The dastardly foreigners were trying to unsettle our captain.
Is that right? Well, let's talk to, speaking of dastardly foreigners, let's talk to Mark Donaldson, who, of course, is from these shores, but has now defected to the other side of the Atlantic. How are you, Mr. Donaldson?
A dastardly foreigner as well. How are you both?
Yeah, very well indeed. I mean, we've talked so much about Sam Allardyce, I'm not really sure there's anything more to say. But, I mean, when you saw the story yesterday, did you think it would play out this way in the next 24 hours?
Well, I don't see why it shouldn't have played out this way, because how can a guy who's getting paid $3 million be so stupid?
Yeah.
And the Twitter, not arguments, but the conversations I've been having over the past 24 hours, I've been trying to, from those that are tended defending him and saying it's a disgrace what the Telegraph have done, I don't agree with that whatsoever. Because if someone's done wrong, then if he hadn't have done anything wrong in the first place, there is no story. So don't give me this kind of this nonsense that, poor Sam or whatever. He's old enough and daft enough to know this. And by the way, I've read today's Telegraph, your time. obviously tomorrow's Telegraph our time. And the other stories, you don't spend 10 months on something and end up with just one thing at the end of it. I think there's a lot more to come from this.
Yes.
So what's wrong with trying to clean up the game?
No, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And whether or not the FA is now going to be able to do that, and whether they're smart enough to, when they do appoint finally the next England manager, they try and sort of, I don't know, sort of make it more secure, if you like, so that he can't get caught out like this.
Well, here's an issue for you. The three guys that supposedly picked Sam Allardyce, why should they be in charge of picking the next guy?
Well, that's my point.
With this one.
Well, yeah, but we've had a debate all night, Mark, about how much could the FA probably have suspected that Sam Allardyce would, get himself into a pickle like this through being just thick. If he went up in front of a judge, as I said to Mike Graham earlier on, the judge would say, "You're a man without a stain on your character." So they couldn't possibly predict he was going to, shoot himself in the foot by his intense greed, as you quite rightly said. £3 million a year, and I think I'll have a few bob more by selling myself to a couple of strangers that I'd only just met, 36 hours earlier. Ridiculous behaviour, but I don't think you could have predicted it.
Do you know what I think one of the biggest problems is here? And I think the stark reality of, well, who are we going to go for next if you're the FA? Because there isn't a candidate. And I totally get the fact they want to have someone who's English. Fine, no problem. I get that if that's the road they want to go down. But what does it say? It's like looking for a good centre-back these days. What does it say when you can't find a good English manager? Eddie Howe will be the England manager one day. I don't think now is the time. I think the England manager, I think international football managerial job is for someone who's got plenty of experience as a club manager and is maybe in their 50s or 60s.
Well, Alan Pardew, I think, is the only guy who fits the bill now.
No, I don't think he's a good choice.
Yeah, well, I think he's a pretty good choice. Steve Bruce, of course, is available.
He's not much of a good choice either.
Well, yeah, but you see, there is a point here, Mark and Mike, because Sam Allardyce didn't even have a good track record as a player. He was a very average player. At least Steve Bruce has led teams to League and Cup doubles.
Yeah, but he hasn't had a great track record as a manager.
Into European triumphs. Well, he's had a very solid record as a club manager, Mark, hasn't he?
I thought it was interesting as well when the Nigel Pearson story broke that he wasn't in charge of Derby for their game last night.
That's right, yeah.
Derby are talking about getting Steve Bruce as the next manager. Did they maybe think, you know what, we've got to be proactive here because if Bruce is the guy we want, and he was the guy who apparently the English FA spoke to as well.
Yeah.
But, maybe that's what they've done. But I want to take you back in 2 or 3 months to before Sam Allardyce's appointment.
Yes.
I was on your show. We had exactly the same conversation. Who's going to be the next England manager? Yeah. You said one thing, Mr. Parry. You said another thing as well, Mike. And I said something different. The bottom line is there isn't one person that everyone is going to agree on, and that's the problem you've got.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's move on to the Champions League because another great night for Leicester last night. Their first ever game at home in the Champions League. And FC Porto were always going to be tough for them, but they did well, and so did Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, Slimani scored bundles of goals for Sporting against Porto, and it's no surprise he was the hero because he's a top player, by the way. And Spurs, that's a fine win. I did the other game in the group. I wish I'd done the Spurs game because Monaco against Leverkusen was horrible, and it finished 1-1. And by the way, if Spurs don't come out of that group, whether in first or second, then there's something wrong because there was nothing to suggest from Monaco and Leverkusen that they'll be an issue for Spurs. I was doing another game on match day 1, so I didn't see Spurs against Monaco at Wembley. I'm staggered how Monaco won there. I don't know if they deserved it.
Well, they did actually. I mean, what they did were very, very well, and which you sometimes remind yourself of when you watch the Champions League, is they got a couple of chances and they put them away. And Spurs were kind of a bit all over the place, a bit panicky and not really, looking like themselves. I mean, last night they looked much more like the Spurs that is in the Premier League.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think Monaco are a better suited team to playing away from home and hitting on the counter. Maybe a bit like Leicester as well in Club Brugge on match day 1 when they won by 3-0.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, there's some teams that just prefer playing away from home. And you can get into the argument about West Ham at home and the new stadium and Spurs playing at Wembley as well. I think Spurs are maybe one of these teams as well who are more dangerous on the break away from home. And I'd be amazed if they don't get out in the top 2 in their group. I think
we'd expect them to, but remember, they're not playing at home. They're playing at Wembley, and this is a problem.
That's the issue.
It is a problem. It's bound to be a problem. And I think West Ham have got the same problem at their new ground as well. And it's all very well to say... I
totally agree.
It's all very well to say, well, a footballer has to concentrate on the grass beneath his feet and all that. That's not the issue. The issue is, do you feel you're in your environment?
I did a piece with Shaka Hislop yesterday about West Ham and what's going wrong. Now, he was telling me before Upton Park, the bowling ground was kind of renovated in the old days of the bowling ground when it was pretty much ramshackle. He said it was great. Opposing teams hated to come there.
Yeah.
And they really felt like they had home advantage. Then they did it up, and he still felt they had home advantage. A midweek night at kind of Upton Park at the bowling ground was great. But he says that's one of the main reasons. He also thinks the other thing is that Payet's nose is out of joint, and that he thought he was getting a move in the summer, and that's one of the reasons. But just when he was talking about the home form of West Ham and playing now at the new London Stadium, it's not the same. And I think it's the same for Spurs at Wembley. Do you want to double your attendance and double your cash, or do you want to stay at White Hart Lane and maybe have more chance because you've got that closer proximity to the park of the fans?
That ship has sailed though, hasn't it? There's nothing you can do about that.
No, there's nothing you can do now.
Of course.
You're stuck there. Somebody told me they think it's too light when you put the floodlights on.
Well, at Wembley.
No, at the New London Stadium.
Oh, sorry, right.
And you know what they're used to is, I mean, you remember at the old bowling ground there was a block of flats on the far side where the guys in the top two flats just leaned out the window to watch the game and all that kind of stuff, you know. But and there was a certain. What's the word I'm looking for? A certain dimness surrounding the ground, if you say, a sort of blackness and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Whereas there's no blackness in the new London Stadium, Mark, because the sides of it are so high, you're like in a bowl of light all the time.
Yeah. The other thing Shaka said was the proximity to the pitch of the old bowling ground at Upton Park.
2 feet away. 2 feet away you could be.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sure, and I know that you might say this is a bit weird, but you know the vast expanse, which I always go on about, behind the pitch, between the pitch and the AstroTurf. You know, I mean that can play tricks on your eyes as well.
Maybe,
you know,
maybe
you're looking at a surface of green, which actually you're not playing on.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one about Anfield as well, because I was there for the Leicester game a couple of weeks ago. Jurgen Klopp has changed the colour of the nets from red to white because he feels it's the same. He wants his players to be able to see the net better because they're going to be playing half of their games there. And there's it's just little things that you don't think about. But going back to the West Ham throw-in thing, Shaka was saying, he said opposing teams were scared about taking a throw-in because the West Ham fans are right on them. That's not the case at their new ground.
No, that's right.
Exactly right.
Absolutely right.
Now, tonight, Celtic take on Manchester City. We know what happened when they went to the new camp. You know, as often is the case with these kind of scenarios, I don't think Celtic are going to let 7 goals in at Parkhead.
No, they won't, but they're not going to win. Manchester City are going to win. It's not changed at all whether they go beat 7-0 at Camp Nou or whatever on match day 1. It's between Celtic and Borussia Mönchengladbach for a place in the Europa League. That's what they're playing for. Right. And you give Celtic fans the choice of Barcelona, Man City, and Mönchengladbach in their group, or the group that Leicester have got. There's just as much chance of Celtic finishing bottom of a group that Leicester have got as there is in the group that they've got. Give the glamour nights at Celtic Park. They obviously beat Barcelona with Tony Watt a few years ago, scoring the winning goal. I'm sure that's what they would want, and let them fight out with Mönchengladbach week 3 and week 4 for a place in the Europa League. Anything else is just a bonus, and I hope the Celtic fans enjoy themselves.
You could see him losing this one 4-0, couldn't you? By 4.
Well, possibly. But they tend to be better at home, don't they?
Yeah, but I mean they're playing the best team in Britain, aren't they?
Yes, there's a golfing class. Manchester City will probably win by 2 goals or more. Celtic keep it tight. I think Craig Gordon's going to be in goal. Doris de Vries hasn't really impressed, and I think Brendan Rodgers said yesterday, the manager, he made a bit of a mistake putting Doris de Vries in. He's got Craig Gordon back in goal. But Manchester City play well, Manchester City win. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Mark, well, thank you very much indeed. We'll be talking to you again soon. Lots more Champions League football tonight, of course. Not only Celtic taking on Manchester City, but Arsenal taking on FC Basel as well. And also a great game, Atletico Madrid against Bayern Munich. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
I had this single.
No. What, you bought that?
Hey?
You bought that by Sweet?
Yeah, I bought that and I bought Blockbuster as well.
Oh, Blockbuster, yeah.
That doesn't mean you should sing it. I'm just telling you that I had it, right?
You gotta go here.
No, I don't want you to sing it. No, what is wrong with you? I don't
everywhere.
want you to sing it. You've been singing one song and never sing another song.
Great record. Listen, I'm
fed up with Sam Allardyce.
So am I. I want to talk to you.
With football. I want to talk about something else.
Okay, I mean, I'm going to talk to you about trees in a minute because once more, I've got terrific evidence now that trees not only talk to each
we've
other.
Done all this already.
No, I've got more and more evidence. But listen, the first thing I want to talk to you about because you live in the country when you're down with your family.
I live in the city as well.
So you live in the country. Now, do you know what a Now, these are a muntjac deer is.
What?
A muntjac deer.
A muntjac deer. What type of deer?
It's a muntjac deer. It's M-U-N-T-J-A-C, muntjac deer.
So it's a type of deer, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, it's a type of deer, but it's not...
I haven't heard of that particular type of deer,
It's a different type of deer, right? There's 150,000 of them now in the UK.
Right.
They are becoming out of control.
Really?
But they're not like ordinary deers. You know, if you were in the Scottish Highlands and you saw a deer, the deer would run away from you.
Actually, not necessarily.
And if you if you walked through Richmond Park, which I do sometimes, and Bushy Park, which is next door, and there's huge herds of deer in those parks.
And they don't necessarily run away from people either.
Well, if you get too close to them, I've noticed they do.
I'll tell you a lovely story about some big red deer in Skye, actually.
That'll be good in a minute, yeah.
I'm sure
Anyway,
you'll
the
enjoy
muntjac is getting completely out of control.
Really?
Its population is expanding. 10 years ago it was 100,000.
Well, where did it come from?
Well, nobody quite knows, but they're becoming domesticated.
Well, did they come over on a ferry or something?
No, they don't come over a ferry, you idiot. But the thing is that they're getting closer to you because where they started and have spread from is Suffolk, okay?
Suffolk,
yeah.
Well, that's where you've got a place, isn't it?
I've got a place in Suffolk,
Well, maybe you should be careful because you haven't been up there for ages.
Well,
maybe they've started to find their way into your palatial penthouse estate.
They wouldn't because my penthouse is on a marina and they can't swim. Now then,
you don't think deer can swim?
Well, no, they can't.
How do you know that?
Well, I know they can't.
How do they get across rivers then?
They don't.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
In Scotland, they cross rivers all the time.
Yeah, but only at low tide when they paddle through
rivers
2 or 3
don't
inches
have
of
low
water.
tide.
Well, they do. Now, listen, let me tell you. These muntjac deer are so dangerous, they can clear a garden with of £1,000 worth of prime blooms in one night.
What, you mean eat them?
Eat them.
Right.
They start
I don't think I've got any prime blooms.
They start with your roses, buds, blooms, leaves, stems. A couple of them can clear £1,000 worth of prime blooms and fruit trees in a single night. They adore tulips, honeysuckle, shrubs, hawthorn, peas, beans, carrots, pretty much any vegetable they can get their teeth into. They have big brown eyes and glossy black noses. But the dainty little creatures, barely the size of a whippet... See? OK, they're only little things.
Oh, so they're tiny?
Tiny things.
So they're not actually deer size?
No, not deer size, no. Told you that.
Whippet size?
Whippet size, yeah.
They're also known as barking deer, apparently.
We'll touch even the hardest heart. The thing is, the muntjac deer are voracious thugs which destroy everything in their path. To them, a well-stocked garden is the equivalent of a Michelin-starred restaurant. The numbers have soared...
This rubbish?
This is a report from one of my nature journals.
Oh, yeah.
The numbers have soared over the past few years.
Deer Weekly.
To the extent that today we're suffering from a muntjac explosion, which has pushed the UK population to more than 150,000.
Well, if they're in Suffolk, there's one nowhere near Sussex, right? And I'm a lot closer to one of your properties.
No, they're
than
everywhere.
Mine.
They originated in Suffolk.
Well, I've never seen them.
They are now in all the Shire counties around the capital.
There's something called a hairy-fronted muntjac.
Yeah, well, that's right.
I've seen one of them.
No, but they're even worse. Now, it says here, they've got one example here, in a 1-acre garden in Mildenhall in Suffolk, where they originated.
Suffolk, yeah.
They squeeze in through gaps in the thick beech hedge, they loiter around outside the house like teenagers, and they set off high-security lights morning and night. They bark for hours. They often bark 200 times in succession, and they've got a bark louder than a dog.
Really?
Yeah, it's very loud.
That's very weird, isn't it? So they don't look like deer. In fact, they look the size of a whippet.
Yeah.
But they've got a deer's face. So
That's
they
right.
bark like a dog.
Yeah.
It's very odd. I'm just reading here that they were introduced, actually, to this country.
That's right.
From a load of deer that actually escaped from Woburn.
That's right, absolutely, Woburn Abbey. And that means that they circled round the capital, London, and they're now in all the Shire counties.
We just had a call from Brian downstairs who says he shoots them and they taste very nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's got a good heart, hasn't he, Brian? Yeah.
I mean, have you ever had a venison burger?
Well, funny enough, I was reading
very good.
in one of my cooking journals. I'm reading today.
One of your cooking journals?
Yeah, the proper way to cook a venison steak. Because apparently they've become very popular in this country.
Venison is beautiful.
What?
Venison is beautiful
venison,
to eat.
Yeah. It's a bit cruel, though, isn't it?
What do you mean cruel?
Cruel to
You've
eat
just
venison.
said there's 150,000 of these deer running wild across the country, eating up people's gardens.
Anyway.
How is it any more cruel than hitting a cow on the head with a hammer and slicing it up after you put it on a hook?
Well, I'm not going into that. I want to tell you about these muntjacs, right?
Well, I know that.
Now,
you still haven't answered whether you've ever had a venison burger.
I don't think so. Now, the thing is that not only are their powers of mass destruction almost absolute, it's compounded by their remarkable fertility. as well as their ability to swim. They do swim, right? They climb. Hey, what's wrong?
Deers of mass destruction.
Yeah, deers of mass destruction. They swim across rivers.
DMD.
They climb up trees.
Yeah.
And they dig deep holes under your hedge.
So they look like a dog. They bark like a dog. They climb up a tree like a bear.
Yes.
But they're not any of those things. They are, in fact, a deer.
They're a deer. They're a deer, yeah. Muntjacs shouldn't even be here. They're an invasive, non-native species like the marauding wild boar, which have been digging up cricket pitches and village greens.
What?
Of the 6 species...
Where do you get this stuff? I haven't heard of any wild boars digging up cricket pitches.
Yeah, they are, all over the place.
No, they're not.
They are. Wild boar are digging up pitches in Derbyshire.
Derbyshire.
Of the 6 species making up Britain's expanding 2 million strong deer population... Only red and roe deer are native. The other 4, which are the fallow, the silker, the Chinese water deer, and the muntjac, are all interlopers.
Really?
And the Chinese water deer, by the way, I'll tell you something about them as well.
Chinese water deer?
Yeah.
OK. All right, dear. Calm down, dear, as it were. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Remind you of anything?
The Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Brilliant film. It's one of your top films.
It
isn't
is one of my top films, and what an amazing scene where Robert De Niro goes after the deer.
Yes,
and they're playing Aaron Copland in the background.
That's right.
And then he lets the deer go.
Yeah,
because he decides after Vietnam that he can't shoot it.
It's a noble beast.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
amazing,
absolutely.
Amazing film.
Now then, just getting back to the muntjac.
What about
the
Chinese deer you're going to tell me about?
Yeah, I'll tell you about that in a minute. The Chinese water deer.
Yeah.
Now we've had a call from a member of our security staff who says he goes around blowing these muntjac deer away. Right. Now, can I just say?
I mean, hunting them, I suppose. I mean, I'm not greatly in favour of hunting, but, you know, somebody's got to do it, especially if you say these things are all over the place.
Yeah, well, let me tell you the history. The muntjac suffered a setback in 1963, the coldest winter for more than 200 years. Most of those in England froze or starved to death, and the numbers were reduced to fewer than 2,000. Against this background, the very first Deer Act became law in England, right?
In England?
Yeah, one existed in Scotland, banning the shooting of them by shotgun.
Right.
Only rifles were allowed to be used to kill them, except in very limited circumstances for crop protection.
OK.
So if the member of our security staff is going around with a shotgun blowing these things away...
He didn't say a shotgun.
No, he said
he said he shot them?
Yeah, he shot them. Well, he must be with a rifle. Anyway, inevitably, population numbers quickly rose, helped too by the beaching cuts on railways, because when they closed down all the railways, the muntjacs then managed to infiltrate all the home counties around London using the abandoned railway lines as deer routes. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
There's hardly any of them in Scotland.
A deer route? What, you hardly deer in Scotland?
Hardly any muntjacs in Scotland.
Why are you so obsessed with this one particular type of deer?
Because I'm telling you, any day now, I'm going to find one in my back garden.
You haven't got a back garden.
In the grounds of my development.
You mean in your shared space?
No, I mean in the grounds of my development, in the communal grounds.
It's communal grounds. Yeah. It's not your garden.
It's still the gardens to my development.
Well, do you have any access to it?
Of course I do.
I mean, what's there? You got a bench?
A bench? A lake?
A lake?
Lake-ish?
It's not a lake.
Well, sort of, you know.
It's a pond.
Ponds.
It's not the same thing as a lake.
That's right, yeah.
Don't you want to hear my story from Skye?
Yes, please.
I was staying in this beautiful cottage in Skye.
Right.
On what can only be described in your words as a facility trip.
Right.
And obviously you didn't smoke inside these cottages when you rented them, you know.
No, yeah.
So I went outside. It was pitch black.
Yes.
Because it was in the middle of nowhere in Skye.
Yes.
And, you know, I lit up a cigarette and I was vaguely aware of some sort of noise.
Right.
And sort of, you know, almost...
was it a wolverine?
No, there was no barking or anything. It was just almost like a very... I just thought, am I imagining it or can I hear something out
Rustling,
there?
yes.
And as my eyes adjusted to the dark, I looked beyond where the car was parked because there was a little driveway.
Yeah.
And surrounding me were 15 red deer, which are very tall. I mean, they're about as high. They're about halfway. They stand on four legs, you know, about halfway up the height of me. But with the antlers, they're as big as a human.
Wow.
And they were amazing.
And 15 of them?
There was 15 of them just staring at me.
And were they aggressive?
No.
Really?
They were just looking at me.
Yeah.
And I looked at them. And
I mean, when you say surrounded, did they cut off your route back to the cottage?
No. I was standing by the front door.
Oh, I see, yeah.
But they were cutting off my route if I wanted to drive the car out.
So they were in a semicircle in front of you?
Yeah, in a semicircle, just staring at me.
That must have been pretty impressive.
It was amazing.
And
It's a beautiful beast.
Did you attempt to stroke one? Or
No, I just stood and looked at them, and I respected their space. They respected mine. Yeah, it was a great moment.
Yeah. Well, what happened?
Nothing.
Well, I mean, did you just go back inside?
Yeah.
Well, how long did you stare at them for?
About 5-10 minutes.
What, you mean you've seen a herd of deer for the first time in your life and you gave them 5 minutes of your time?
Well, not for the first time.
That's pathetic.
I've seen plenty of deer before that, but I'd never seen wild red deer up that close.
Absolutely pathetic, honestly.
You have no soul.
Yeah.
You sold your soul a long time ago.
I'd have stayed and stared at them all night.
Yeah, well, I had better things to do. There was someone good in the cottage. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. We should remind everybody, in case you don't know, we will be doing the warm-up from this Saturday on a permanent basis. October the 1st is a good time to kick it all off, I
Absolutely.
suppose, where the autumn is finally kicking in, where those warm... Although it's still a bit humid, I have to say. Today I was a bit warm on the tube again.
Well, I think the cold snap now is with us. When you get up in the morning, you feel that sort of pinch of cold on your face. You know autumn's here, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
And I love it. When does the clock go forward or back?
It's usually middle of October,
No, I think it's sooner. I think it might be this coming weekend.
No.
Or the weekend after. No, I think it is.
I don't think so.
I think it is.
I'm sure it's October.
No, I think I know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't think you know anything about what you're talking about. Shimon Peres has just died, by the way, aged 93.
He's died,
former Israeli president, yeah. He had a stroke a few days ago and hasn't really recovered.
Do you know what? I don't think the previous guy who was in a coma has died yet. He's still in a coma.
Well, Ariel Sharon.
Who was a great sort of military commander. He's still in a coma, isn't he?
I think he might be, yeah.
I think he is, yeah. I think he had a stroke or something, poor chap. Anyway, there we go. Now, listen, talking about animals, right?
Yeah.
I know there's a bit of an animal fest here, but
not
I
really.
mean, you've got a dog, right?
I have.
And it's a very happy dog, Ziggy. You know, we all love Ziggy.
Although, do you know, I saw the most pathetic picture of him the other day, which was sent up to me. Well, I haven't seen him. I'll be seeing him tomorrow morning, I think, because he's been licking one of his paws. Because sometimes when they start doing that, they continue doing it, so sort of a habit.
Yes.
And so the vet said, well, the best thing you can do is put like a rubber sock on his paw, and he won't be able to do it.
Right.
And so he's sitting there with his sock on, just looking pathetic, sad,
yes,
because he can't get at what it is that he wants to get
at. His paw.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if you didn't, he'd start chewing it and all sorts of things.
Well, also, he can, because it starts to get a bit raw and a bit red.
Well, not only that, but if you start licking them, you get a hairball in your.
Well, it's not so much that
in your throat and all that kind of stuff.
It's more the worry about the paw itself.
Yeah, well, I agree. Anyway, listen, would you ever have considered having sort of a bulldog? Or
like one of those sort of snub nose things.
Yeah, or
not
a
really,
pug or something like that. Neither would I, because
No.
I think they're very ugly.
Yeah,
and
the people who like little dogs, love them. And I'm sure they're lovely dogs to have. But for me, you've got to have a sort of quite big dog, really.
I mean, well, you say that, but bulldogs are quite big. Now, a mate of mine, who was a professional footballer, actually, had 2 bulldogs. I don't know why, but a lot of footballers seem to have bulldogs. I don't know why they do, but
it's kind of a trendy thing, I think.
Is it a trendy thing?
Those French bulldogs are quite trendy as well.
Well, anyway, I was about to say to you, and the dogs were very smelly. Bulldogs are very smelly dogs. I don't know why. I mean...
What, you witnessed these guys' dogs being smelly?
Well, whenever they entered the room, there was a certain sort of pungency about it. I don't mean
sometimes that could depend on whether they've been fixed or not. Though.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, if they've been, neutered.
Why? Why is that?
Well, because if they're not neutered, they smell more.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's a sort of sex thing.
Yeah, I see. Okay, fine. Well, what I was saying is, I'm not suggesting the dogs are dirty or anything like that. They have a sort of natural odour about them.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
but they also move incredibly slowly. They don't seem to have much affection about them. They don't bound up to you and jump in your lap and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And I can't really see the point of
them. They just weren't bounding up to jump in your lap.
No, they don't bound because they walk so slowly. And people have also told me, well, they have terrible arthritis problems, and also from a very early age.
Yeah, and I think I think they're one of the dogs that have been sort of overbred to a large extent as well, and so they're quite sort of brittle.
Yeah. Anyway, look, the point of all this is it's much more serious than that.
Oh, yeah.
Because, in fact, buying a dog with a flat face is cruel, say vets in my latest dog breeder's journal.
Why?
Okay.
Dog breeder's journal?
Yeah, because they're having great problems with breathing. Listen to this.
Actually, I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
And they snore very loudly, don't they?
No, it says here, vets are warning against buying fashionable flat-faced dogs, and that's what they're called, amid concerns over their health and welfare. The dogs, which are French bulldogs, pugs and Pekingese, are bred to emphasise certain in inverted commas, cute features which make them susceptible to a number of severe health problems, including difficulty breathing, infections and eye problems.
Yes.
The RSPCA have said selective breeding had become so extreme that it also caused the dogs pain and even prevented them from behaving normally.
Yeah. Well, that may well be true. I have heard that. And in fact, I've sat next to guys on a bench who had one of those dogs, and it was making a terrible noise, and it was actually sounding like snoring while it was awake.
That's right.
And that's part of the problem with their breathing that they have.
That's right.
Sounded quite weird.
Now, a guy called Sean Wensley, who is president of the British Veterinary Association, says prospective owners need to consider that these dogs can suffer from a range of health problems, from eye ulcers to severe breathing difficulties. We strongly encourage people to choose a healthier breed or a crossbreed instead.
Oh, yeah.
He's actually saying it's not good to own one of these dogs.
No.
Dog charities reported an increase in owners dumping their pedigree dogs in huge numbers as they find themselves unable to manage the complex health issues which suddenly emerge.
Yes.
I mean, this is, and it says here also, problems compounded by disreputable puppy farms, mainly in Central and Eastern Europe, who are sending dogs over to this country.
Yeah. Because normally it's one of those dogs that I would have said you might quite like to get if you were going to ever get a dog.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, it's because it's a smaller dog. You don't have to walk it quite so much.
Yeah.
And, it's a little bit easier to contain in a flat.
Yes. But these dogs, you see, there's a wide range of them now. You see, I once thought about getting a spaniel. It says here it includes King Charles Spaniels. I thought King Charles Spaniels are lovely little dogs, but no, apparently not.
Well, I mean, it depends again on you have to. This is why you have to be very careful where you get the dogs from.
Yes.
I've got a couple of tweets here for you and some texts as well.
Okay.
This one from Pete in Cleethorpes. He says, "Hi, Mike. My local butcher offered me 8 venison legs for 40 quid. I said they are too dear."
Oh, you're making fun and a joke now. People going around blowing people away. This is not good. I'm not sure if I should join in laughing at that sort of pathetic joke, which is
good. I like those
mocking
kind of
the
one from
the plight
Matt here.
of animals.
Porky's made me an expert on deer. I sit here listening to him while shaking my head and saying, "Dear, oh dear, oh dear."
Oh yeah, we're all having a laugh now, are we, about the plight of poor little munch, what do they call munchaks, who are getting blown away all over the place. I don't think that's a very good idea to have a laugh about,
Yeah, and Roy says small dogs tend to get urine on themselves when they pee because it bounces back onto their legs and bellies. Dachshunds reek, apparently, he says.
Oh, like sausage dogs and that sort of stuff. Oh, dear.
And
I was
Graham
thinking
says,
of one of them as well.
And I can confirm that this is correct, the clocks go back on the 30th of October.
30th?
So you're well off.
That's 4.5 weeks away.
So you're about a month away.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
Didn't get that one right. Anyway, you don't seem to be too concerned about the plight of these dogs that can't breathe.
No, I'm not. Well, no way telling me this.
And, well, I'll tell you who's got one or has had a problem with one.
Yeah.
Ulrika Johnson.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, she's had quite a few problems with dogs.
Ulrika Johnson says, anyone who tells you a dog is just a dog hasn't experienced a pet's unconditional love. My 2 bulldogs, Nessie 5 and 3-year-old Dexter, are companions. Both came from reputable, responsible breeders. They're my best friends to the children, a bigger part of life than I could expect. But all that nearly changed 3 months ago when Dexter fell ill. Normally. Yeah. And unusually for a bulldog, he was exhaustingly energetic.
Really?
See, and I said that they don't run around, but this one did. But on that day, he sat panting at the top of the stairs, refusing to move, took him to the vet. He had an MRI scan. It showed a herniated disc. And we were told that although painful, it should be manageable without surgery. But later that night, vet called again to say, we're losing him. His neurological signs are diminishing.
Yes.
But they saved him. But they said it was all as a result of being a bulldog and getting energetic.
Yeah.
Bulldogs should not be energetic. They put their backs out.
Yeah. Right.
How about that?
Yeah, well, there we are. There's worries out there for everyone,
Indeed.
I suppose.
Indeed.
We've got lots of Ask Porkies, lots more coming in. Peter says this, some of these flat-faced dogs can't even breed on their own. They need to be artificially inseminated, and that's too much meddling from man.
Golly, I would say so as well, yeah. I mean, I don't know why people keep these animals in such distress. It really upsets me. It really does.
Why does it upset you?
Because the other thing I learnt from my, I've been reading all my animal journals, is that poachers are wiping elephants off the map. There's only...
Well, there was that terrible story at the weekend, wasn't there, of the guy who killed the elephant and said he was doing it to somehow preserve the species.
Unbelievable.
Shocking.
Poachers who target African elephants for the ivory have caused the total population to fall by more than 100,000 in 10 years.
Yeah, I know.
We've lost 100,000 elephants in 10 years. Now, Wembley Stadium takes 98,000 people.
Yeah.
Imagine, instead of people going into Wembley Stadium, imagine elephants. That's how many. That's how many elephants.
Well, you wouldn't get 100,000 elephants in, would you?
Well, you probably would if you put them on the pitch and all that kind of stuff.
Then they couldn't watch the game.
No, well, then there wouldn't be a game going on.
Why would they go in there, then?
I'm trying to evaluate the numbers. Numbers. What I'm saying is, if you filled Wembley Stadium up with an elephant...
With elephants. Well, they'd break the seats, wouldn't they?
Well, of course they wouldn't sit on the seat, you idiot. But if
they go to the FA Club.
If you had one elephant at Wembley for every seat at Wembley Stadium, that's how many elephants we've lost in 10 years.
Really?
Isn't that an incredible figure?
Yeah, it's incredible.
It is.
It is. But a very odd idea that you would put them all into Wembley Stadium.
Well, it's the same figure, 100,000,
yeah, all right.
isn't it? Don't you get the analogy?
No, you take him to Gelsenkirchen and put them in there.
Don't you get the analogy?
No, I don't. I think your analogies are completely and utterly out of sync, quite frankly. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, you're crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never caught a rabbit and you ain't no friend of mine. Well, they said you was high class. Well, that was just a lie. Yeah, they said you was high class.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Coming up is Ask Porky very, very shortly. We've got lots of really good questions for him this week, but if you really, really want to get a good one in, you've still got time. Tweet it at the Two Mics or look for us on the Facebook page. I wanted to tell you this story from last week, actually. You know, you brought it up. You know that feud that was going on between Jimmy Page and Robbie Williams?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Where Robbie Williams was, like, rebuilding all sorts of bits of his house.
Yes, that's right.
And he was right next door to Jimmy Page in Holland Park.
Yep.
And apparently he's now finished with all of that work. And so Jimmy Page...
Is it a great underground swimming pool and all that kind of stuff?
I think he was doing the usual thing where you also put in like an underground
and all that kind of stuff,
film theatre and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah.
And it was driving Jimmy Page mad. He went to court, but in the end he couldn't really stop it.
Yeah.
But just to show how sort of pathetic some of these things have become, now that Robbie Williams has finished the work, Jimmy Page has now decided to start some work of his own to annoy Robbie Williams with.
Well, deliberately?
Yeah.
Well, are you sure about this?
Well, he's hired a scaffolding company, which is called the Millennium Scaffolding Company.
Right.
Because, of course, that was a very famous song by Robbie Williams.
Yes.
And so the Millennium parking truck now sits outside Robbie Williams' house every day.
Right, OK.
And there's lots of hammering and banging going on.
And what's the scaffolding for?
Well, the scaffolding has been put up onto Jimmy Page's house.
That's what I mean.
Next door to Robbie Williams.
Yeah, to do what?
Well, I don't know. But he's just decided to cause some trouble, basically.
Yeah, it seems very petty.
It does, doesn't it?
It proves the point that I've always made, and that is that, you know, during my life I've had properties where problems have arisen, and you move because you think, I could do without this.
Yeah.
But you go to another property and you'll have another problem.
Yeah.
Because property will bring you problems, whatever.
It's the one thing that you can't guarantee is who your neighbours are going to be, right?
You can't guarantee your neighbours are going to be. You can't guarantee who built the house and did they build it solidly.
Yeah.
Because, funny enough, there's a property I'm associated with, right? We've got a big problem with it because a leak keeps appearing in one of the corridors.
Oh, yeah.
And
is this the one where the roof was the problem? Or was in your place, wasn't it?
That was in my place.
Oh, right. So they fixed that?
That's all fixed, yeah. But what happened is, it's quite interesting, is that this development was built 25 years ago with slates which actually became porous after a couple of years.
Right.
So let rain through. So you had to replace them. The problem is that the slates had been specially made to fit the design of the roof, and there are no more.
Right.
So in order to stop the leaks, because the water's coming through porous slates, we're having to pay to manufacture a whole new roof full of slates,
So you have to do the whole thing?
You'll do the whole thing.
So to take off the good ones as well?
Exactly.
And how much is that going to cost?
Probably £10,000 or £12,000 for that part of the roof. It's not the whole roof.
You'll
but
need to find out. You'll need to find out missing 12,000.
Well, it's split between a number of people, not just me. Thank God. But I mean, any property you go to will have a problem. Now, Matthew Wright, an old colleague of mine, used to work with him in Fleet Street. Right.
Matthew Wright from The Right Stuff.
Yes, from The Right Stuff.
Yes, I know Matthew. I used to work with him in the Mirror.
Yeah, you used to work in the Mirror, right? So he bought a house for about £2 million, I think, and it's worth a lot more than that now. But I encountered a piece from him in which he said he nearly went completely mad because although you pay £2 million for a house, it's in a good neighbourhood.
Yeah.
His neighbours, again, did exactly what you've just described and decided that they were going to dig down. And he said for about 18 months, they never slept.
Yeah.
He and his wife and children never slept because not only was it going on all day long, which left them...
Well, surely they couldn't have done it at night as well.
No, I'm just telling you, which left them irritable and, angry and their life was disturbed. They couldn't have a quiet moment and all that kind of stuff. But in the evenings, it affected the place badly because sometimes they'd be bringing supplies for the next morning's work and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, and constantly subcontractors' vans turning up if a delivery of I don't know what it was, some sort of lining for the swimming pool or something arrived, and he said it was just constant for about 2 years.
I know, it drives you mad.
And drives you mad, and there's nothing you can do about it. I had that situation where the people next door to me, who were a bunch of prison officers, because the house had been bought by the Home Office to accommodate the prison governor, but the prison governor was a bit of a party-going girl and used to bring all the prison warders home with them. They used to party all night.
Right.
It was madness. That house cost about like £250,000.
Yeah.
And because the one next door was bought by the Home Office and rented out, I had no control over it. And in the end, I had to go to the Home Secretary, get it sorted.
Yeah, well, not everybody can do that.
It was a friend of mine. Yeah.
Well, so you say. Was
David Blunkett.
David Blunkett,
that's
yeah.
right, yeah.
He knew you well, did he?
Well, he
still friends with him.
I haven't spoken to him for a while, but he responded. To the. He knew exactly who I was and what it was all about. No problem there. But you will honestly, because if you live in a block of flats, you cannot determine who lives below you, above you, on your right side or on your left side. You simply can't.
Exactly.
Unless you've got a penthouse like me, and then at least it's only.
But it's not really a penthouse, is it? Why don't you just admit it's not really a penthouse?
Well, it's the top. It's the top flat with a
it's
roof
about,
garden.
It's only about 4 flights up, though.
I'm sorry, it's a penthouse, mate.
No,
that's all.
It's not a penthouse. A penthouse to me.
Your envy.
I'm not envious.
Spills
no,
over.
I'm not envious of anything that you have. Okay. My impression of a penthouse is a penthouse which is at the very top of a building and is generally considered to be the entire floor.
Well, you've been watching too many B-class movies.
Is that right?
Trees, right? Now, you don't want to hear about trees, but
I don't
you're
want
going
to hear about trees.
Right, what about this?
It's like a broken record.
Now, we spoke to the guy who wrote the book, didn't we? And he was the German guy.
Yeah, he was kind of mad, that guy, wasn't he?
No, he wasn't mad.
Yeah, he was.
Peter Wohleben.
No, we didn't speak to him. We spoke to a guy in America.
Oh, that's right.
Who was aware of Peter's book.
Yeah, okay, exactly. Now Peter Wohleben, the German forester, who came up with the theory that trees communicate underground through a wood wide web, okay?
Yeah, the wood wide web. That's ridiculous.
Exactly. Wood Wide Web.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, hang on. The bloke who runs Kew, which is very famous, isn't it? Kew Gardens.
Kew Gardens is, I hit a lot of golf balls in there.
Absolutely. Tony Kirkham, head of the Arboretum at Kew Gardens, says that there is plenty of evidence that trees are intelligent social beings. Now, one area of intelligence among trees and care between communities came to him when he went to visit a plantain, that is like a family.
Is it?
Yeah, of coastal redwoods.
I thought a plantain was a type of vegetable you get in the Caribbean.
No.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
I'm sure it is. It's like a banana, but it's slightly different.
Hang on, let me finish. He visited a plantain of coastal redwoods where there was a knot of enormous pure white albino redwoods. This is over in California, okay? Yeah. Now, what happened was the albino redwoods, okay?
What colour are they then?
White.
White redwoods.
Albino is white, right?
Is it?
Well, somebody's got an albino condition in a human has got white hair and colourless eyes, haven't they?
Yeah, I think so.
And no eyebrows.
Yeah.
Okay? No eyebrows. They look a bit sort of different.
But does albino actually mean white, or does it not mean it's opposite? It's kind of like a negative, isn't it?
No, it means white.
Does it?
Yeah. So
these redwood trees are white?
Yeah, they're albino redwoods.
I've never seen one of those.
What?
Have you seen a picture of one?
No.
Really?
Why do I need to?
Well, because I'd like to see one. I'm interested.
Really? It'd make your life, would you see a white redwood?
It's the first interesting thing you've ever said about trees, that there are albino trees. I had no idea there were.
OK, well, I've told you. Now, this meant the reason why albino redwoods are albino is because they have no chlorophyll, so they can't survive on their own.
Right.
So what we're saying is, when an albino redwood grows up, it should die. It should die because it has no chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is it
well,
protection
it shouldn't die
against nature.
It shouldn't grow up, should it?
Well, it only becomes albino in sort of after about 10 or 12 years.
Oh, I see. So that's different because I presume albino people are born albino, aren't they?
Yes.
You sure?
You can develop albinoism. You can. I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. But no, hang on. So anyway. Sorry, I don't know what you think is so funny.
Very good.
So anyway, the point is, the mystery is, how did these trees survive?
Right. Do they cut them so you can drive through them? You know those pictures where you see
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So you can drive through a white redwood?
No, because they're not as big. This is the whole point.
Right.
Now then, the only way they could survive, scientists have now discovered, is because another tree was giving them the nutrients they needed to grow because they had no chlorophyll. He said that many trees liked a rub, because it helps them to get rid of oxygen-limiting lichen.
Like a rub?
Yeah, and
you
like
mean lichen?
humans... Hey?
Lichen, you mean?
What did I say?
Lichen.
Lichen. Yeah. And like humans, they talked with each other and became stressed and moody. The trees actually can talk to each other.
Uh-huh.
He said that Mr. Wohlbelen's view, the German guy, had indicated different parenting skills for teachers.
Uh-huh.
He says that willows and poplars are unsociable trees. They don't like other trees' company, so they've evolved by producing seed that will blow a long way away and germinate a long way from its parent. Whereas an oak tree has an acorn, and if there is not an animal to move it, it is dropped and grows next to the parent tree and is brought up by the parent, and the parent likes to safeguard it and bring it up.
All I can find is evidence of like albino sort of bushes next to a redwood rather than actually albino trees.
Albino redwood trees. And the only reason they can survive is because they're given the nutrients through the roots touching each other from their parent trees.
You told us all this the other day.
No, but I haven't told you about the fact that acorns, when an oak has an acorn, it likes it to be dropped nearby. So that when the baby tree grows up, which is their child, they can look after it. They can shelter it from rain and all that kind of stuff. But the other trees, the willows, they don't like that.
So what?
They're like... I
couldn't care less.
They're like packs of tigers
Really?
who cast out their young, you know what I mean?
Packs of tigers?
Yeah.
Have you gone mad?
Prides of tigers,
Hey?
prides of lions,
Have
prides
you
of
gone
lions.
mad?
No.
I think you have.
No, I like to get close to the natural world.
Do you?
Yep.
Okay, maybe you get close to it in half an hour when you leave. This is Talk Sport.
Don't phone your mother. Phone Talks.
Indeed. And as informative as possible.
Indeed.
There was a whole series of things. Starting off with a very current question, I suppose. This one comes from James.
Okay.
If more stories emerge about corruption in English football, could there be a similar impact to the match-fixing scandal in Italian football from which it has never really recovered?
Well, I think that's too speculative to be able to answer properly, to be honest. The corruption in Italian football was all money-based. It was all about backhanders. It was all about people accepting money to differentiate results of football matches. Without being rude to anybody who's listening who's of Italian extraction, it was a very Italian business. And as we all know, one of the world's great criminal empires, the mafia, originated in Italy, spread to other parts of the world, like the United States of America. But there was a lot of aspect of Italian behaviour in what happened there, which I would not expect to happen here.
Here's one from Colin. If you met your dream woman and she cooked you a surprise meal and it's everything you hate, what would you do?
Well, I would... It would be difficult, that, because it happened once, actually, when I was up in Connecticut with Doreen, and Ivor, and I was the guest at a dinner party there. I happened to be over in America. I went over on the QE2, actually. She said, come up and join us and all this kind of stuff. And I was the guest of honour, and she'd cooked a joint, but she'd saturated it or soaked it or marinated it in garlic for 2 days.
Yeah.
And I can't stand garlic.
Right.
And I just had to tell her. I accepted the food on the table as she was carving it. Even the fumes of the garlic were overwhelming me. But and she put it on my plate, and I just had to take her out the room and say, Doreen, I just cannot eat this. I just can't put garlic in my mouth. It'll make me ill. Anyway, she went off and found me something else, and all was fine. But I still found it difficult to sit in the room with the amount of garlic fumes.
Yes. Well, I suppose you just have to say no, thank you. Phil says this, Porky, is it possible that the UK fracking industry is now worth buying shares in? What is your expert opinion?
I wouldn't advise anybody to invest in any shares in any business because, frankly, it can go so wrong so quickly. I've never encouraged people to invest in the businesses that I invest in because they can go wrong, and a lot of them have, I'm afraid. The best advice in life that I can give anybody is invest in yourself. If you believe in yourself, invest in yourself.
Yes, well, the Labour Party, of course, have said if they get into government, they will ban fracking. So
yes, exactly.
We shall see. Blandy says this, should I cut my hours at work now I'm mortgage-free and enjoy life, or stick to working and saving, hoping I live to a good age?
No, you must stick to working and saving. Those people who sort of cut their hours and say, I'm mortgage-free now, I can have a bit more leisure time. What are you going to do with your leisure time?
You can do lots with your leisure time.
Leisure time is dying time, believe me. The only thing that keeps you going in this world is having the purpose, for getting up in the morning and going out to work. And that's why I'm a huge critic and a huge opponent of the welfare state. Welfare given to people imprisons them in a worthless life. And that's why we should get rid of it.
Well, here's one from Marcus on a similar working theme. He says, a storm is about to hit Barbados and I'm scheduled to work the overnight shift. Should I go or call in sick and sleep?
Well, I don't know exactly your circumstances. If you're flying to Barbados and there's a storm breaking,
I
don't
think
fly.
He lives in Barbados.
Oh, he lives in Barbados.
Yeah.
Well, stay. It's fantastic to see a storm on Barbados. It's a spectacle.
No, well, he's asking whether we should go to work or not.
Well, go to work. Yeah, of course you should go to work. What do you mean? What's wrong with you?
Well, it might be dangerous.
It doesn't matter. You're frightened of being hit by a flying telegraph post or something like that. Well, it doesn't often happen. No, I should go. What you have to do is you have to laugh in the face of the elements. You have to laugh in the face of those who would stop you going about your day-to-day business and get on with it.
OK, here's one from Lloyd. Porky, do you think the age to take your driving test should be raised from 17 to 21 or even 25? And should there be retests every 10 years for people in your age group, 60 plus?
No. The age for taking your driving test should still be 17, because what you don't understand is, if you understand physiology like I do, the reason why a fighter pilot is at his biological peak at 22 and the better pilot than a man aged 32 is because of the biological efficiency of your body. 17-year-old drivers, largely speaking, after 6 months at the wheel, are better drivers than anybody in their 40s, 50s or 60s. As for 60-year-olds, I've got a problem with people having to retake their tests, but frankly, when I become 60, I will not need a test to learn how to redrive again.
When will that be?
Well, it'll be when it happens.
OK.
Right, can we get on with it,
please?
This
is a very quick one here.
Yep.
Fergus, salt and vinegar or cheese and onion?
Salt and vinegar, but actually, if you're talking about crisps, smoky bacon, can't eat cheese and onion. Don't like onion. Don't like raw onion.
OK. Here's one from John on Facebook. Porky, if you were on a life raft with MG and Kate Adie and one of you had to volunteer to go overboard to save the other two, could you really do the decent thing and trust Katie in the hands of old MG with his morals of an alley cat change your position?
Well, I wouldn't throw myself out of the, the lifeboat if there was me, MG and Kate Adie in it and it was sinking.
She might throw you out.
No, and one of us had to exit. I would.
Will we throw Kate Adie over?
I would throw Kate Adie out because her life is not as important as mine to me, and I need you to be able to work efficiently. Kate is surplus to my requirements, so I'd set her free to swim to shore.
I think this is a bit
even if shore was like 400 miles away.
I think this is a bit of a trick question. So I'm not even sure if this still exists.
Yeah.
But it's quite a philosophical one from Arthur. Why is there only one Monopoly Commission?
Well, that's a silly question because obviously monopoly commissions look after people who are monopolising businesses and they have to have an absolute power to rule. Simple as that.
OK. Here's one from Drew. How many goals will Raheem Sterling score this season?
Well, I don't know, but everybody seems to think he's a revived man. And funny enough...
Well, it's all down to Brendan Rodgers.
Well, after Brendan Rodgers making a throwaway comment the other night that, I'm telling you, I sent Raheem Sterling a letter and I said, Raheem, you're a great footballer because I made you one. And he's done an interview with John Cross today in the Mirror saying, it's all down to me, the revival of Raheem Sterling. I don't know how many goals Raheem Sterling will score. He's not
I think he's more of a... He's supplying more goals this season, it seems, as well. He's not really playing as a goal scorer, is he?
He's not a world-class footballer, but he's become a more efficient footballer within the structure of Manchester City under the guidance of Pep Guardiola.
Dave says this, Tom, Porky, I'm working nights and I hate it. What's the best way to keep myself motivated?
Well, it depends what you're doing working overnight. What you have to do is take pride in your job. Now, as you will well be aware, MG and I work variable hours here on a 24-hour national radio station, and we enjoy every moment of every minute that we work. You have to make of it what is there. We mostly enjoy working at nights because of the broad expanse of the audience worldwide, and secondly, because we get the chance to then redistribute our work through a podcast. You have to make the best of what you've got. MG and I, frankly, don't see the difference between working nights and working days.
Very true. Now, this is a bit of a long one. This is from our man who's involved slightly with naval intelligence.
Okay.
Mark, he says, as a naval man myself, is the recent news of bringing back HMY Britannia post-Brexit to sail around the world and sign trade deals a good option? The previous Royal yacht secured billions of pounds of trade deals around the world. Therefore, is this a good option for the government to proceed with? It would mean an initial shelling out of around 200 million to get it back to sea, and 66 MPs have already signed a letter backing it. Or do we wait until Corbyn gets in and rely on the one paddle boat he will leave the Royal Navy with and rely on strongly worded letters to all of the world's tyrants?
Yeah, it would have been a ridiculous idea to bring back the Royal Yacht Britannia, which is berthed in Leith Harbour, I think, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Up in just just off Edinburgh there. And it was an idea, crazy idea from Boris Johnson, but then Boris Johnson had a crazy idea to build a floating airport in the Thames estuary. They're just all pie-in-the-sky ideas. The Royal Yacht Britannia was brilliant for the royal family when it existed. It's now a yacht that was built over 60 years ago and, frankly, makes England look a little backward and sort of 1950s-ish. So, no, forget the idea.
Here's one from Andy. It's a very recent one. I'm driving around Norfolk. I nearly hit a muntjac. Should I return to it and run it down in order to make myself a lovely venison burger?
No, but you should return to it and see if it's injured. And if it's injured, call a vet. Because, you know, you have a responsibility as a human being to look after all God's earthly creatures. So investigate and find out whether you've done damage.
Here's one from Stephen. Have you ever been involved in an undercover sting scenario?
Yes, I have. We found out that Foggy, who was Princess Anne's first husband, Captain Mark Phillips, had an illegitimate child who was being brought up in Australia. And I sent a team of reporters out there, and after a lot of painful investigation and checking documents and birth certificates and all that, we established the story and became a world scoop.
You didn't have to sort of put the old disguise on there and have
I was controlling operations.
An undercover camera anyway.
No, I was controlling operations from here. We did it all above board.
Okay, Terry says this: Dear Porky, consider you survive and even occasionally thrive on almost zero sleep. What is your secret to such a long life?
My secret of long life is to be interested in what you're doing, to have a purpose every day for getting up. And once again, I've said this once already in this section, that's why welfare is death to a lot of people. It's a cruel and disgusting method of politics to just pay people off to do nothing and wreck their lives. It's horrible.
One final question from Martin.
Yes.
What could a fractured Coventry City fan base do to facilitate the removal of the club's owners, if at all?
Well, I see that Richard Keys, my old mate, is now in such utter despair about Coventry. I think they're bottom of their league they're in, aren't they? And they have lost their ground, they've lost their training ground, they've lost all their credibility, I think. And I can't tell you what the answer is to Coventry City. All I can say is there have been clubs in worse situations than what Coventry are in now, and I will name two of them. One is Bournemouth FC, another one is AFC Wimbledon, which today we learn got permission to rebuild a new ground in Plough Lane where it all started. So clubs have been in worse positions than Coventry. You can fight back, but it takes the will of a good body of determined and ruthless fans to achieve that.
Yes, absolutely right. Well, that was Ask Porky. A lot of questions we didn't get to, so fear not, we will put them in the little pile and perhaps include some of them next week if that is indeed possible. Coming up tomorrow, of course, is Porky Vision, and then a quiz coming up on Thursday, going into Friday morning on a subject yet to be determined. We might try and figure what that's going to be next.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Laughing all the way for a redwood tree. Please let us under. When we were young, we used to go under the redwood tree.
That's a nice little song, isn't it?
What's that?
Redwood Tree.
Oh, the Redwood Tree, yeah. Van Morrison.
Van Morrison,
yes.
Very distinct. He's got a new album coming out. I saw a poster for it on the tube the other day. Very nice. Very nice.
I think he's a bit of a bore.
You don't like Van Morrison?
No, not much,
Why?
no. Well, he only ever made one good song, and that was On the Dark Side of the Street, or it's called.
Eh?
You know,
Dark Side of the Moon.
And the lone and windy night, da 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 da, on the dark side of the street.
What about Moondance?
Da 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 da.
What about Moondance?
Moondance, never heard of Moondance.
You've never heard of Moondance?
Didn't like Brown Eyed Girl.
You didn't like Brown Eyed Girl?
No. What was the song that I was just
Gloria?
singing? What was the song I was just singing?
I'm not sure.
On
I'm
the
pretty
dark
sure.
side of the street. Da, da, da,
I know.
Da, da, da,
You mean the bright side of the road?
On the bright side of the road.
Yeah.
Is that the name of the song?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was all right, yeah. But, I mean, that's the only one I liked.
All right. Phil says this. How many journals has that clown Mike Parry got? He must have subscriptions coming out of his ears.
Well, you know, people send them to me because they like the authoritative view of what I'm all about.
Is
you
that
know
right?
what I mean? Yeah.
Craig says, please come to Brisbane. We're in Australia. I will take you to the best game in the world, Aussie rules football.
Okay,
I'm not sure I'd enjoy that.
Okay.
And Andy says, for God's sake, I'm trying to work whilst doubled up laughing. Elephants in Wembley.
Yeah.
Bloody hysterical.
Well, no, I didn't. What I said was that we've lost as many elephants over the last 10 years as people can get into Wembley.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Well, you have to repeat it.
Yeah.
What concert was the elephant going to see, says Steve? Was it A. Nelly?
Say again.
What concert were the elephants going to see in Wembley?
Yeah, and what did he say? A. Nelly?
A. Nelly.
What's he on about?
Nelly the elephant.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know of any group called A. Nelly or anything like that.
Well, the answer is Nelly.
Nelly? Yeah, no,
Nelly the elephant.
Sorry.
You know Nelly the elephant. You know the
Nelly
song.
the elephant went to work, or something like that.
Yeah, said goodbye to the circus.
Said goodbye to the circus. Da, 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 da.
And Scott says this: Porky, slate is a non-porous material, hence why it's used on roofs.
Yeah.
It must have been bad workmanship.
It was. They were slates made of. They weren't made of slate actually. They were roof tiles made of.
Was it Italian tile?
No, it's made of like brick, if you see what I mean. You know, the sort of brick fabric, and it became porous.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
And Steve's reminded everybody that you say you love all God's creatures.
Yes.
What a hypocrite. What about all the cats you wanted to eliminate last week?
Well, cats are evil.
Exterminate.
Cats are evil, and I'm not the only person who has come to that conclusion. You look at any of the great researchers into animal behaviour, you'll see that cats are definitely evil.
Right.
And feral cats, which are the ones that feral cats, which are the ones we most dislike, should be wiped out.
When you say we, you don't include me in your horrible cat extermination plan.
Okay.
Now, did I ever tell you about the undercover job I did?
Undercover of the night?
Yeah, undercover job I did.
What was it?
When I was in America.
Well, didn't you once pose as a businessman to try and get close to the guy who was associating, we'll say, with Princess Michael of Kent?
That's true. No, that wasn't really undercover.
Okay.
I wasn't pretending to be anybody other than who I was.
Yeah.
But I did do a job once for the Sunday Times.
Yes.
In which I had to pretend to be a shrimp buyer.
A shrimp buyer?
Yes. Because shrimp is big business, right?
Shrimping,
and, shrimping is very big business.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a story that they were working on, which was about and it was like the insight team of the Sunday Times. I used to do bits and pieces for them. And it was about people who were exporting frozen shrimp from America into Billingsgate in London.
Right.
But it wasn't being properly kind of put through all the proper processes.
Okay.
And so there was a fear that it might be contaminated sometimes.
Yes.
It was being sort of fished out and put out to London restaurants and people like that. And it was a massive business. And the idea was that it was organised crime that was kind of involved in it. And I had to go down to the Jersey Shore and buy a load of shrimp.
Yeah, well, that's not really undercover, is it?
Yeah, it is, because I wasn't walking in as a journalist. I was walking in to the situation and pretending that I was a buyer for a fictitious company which had been set up in London in order to try and trap these guys.
Would you have got beaten to a pulp by a load of longshoremen if you'd have been discovered?
Well, it wasn't so much that they were longshoremen, but they were very dodgy characters.
Yes,
you know, they operated out of what could only have been described as a sort of a cabin on not far from the shore near Jersey City.
I know what you mean.
And I had to hire a car that they couldn't trace, and I had to have a whole load of documents made that they could check because they were involved in nefarious activity. And it was quite interesting.
One time, what I did was I got a very attractive young girl female reporter, to get a job as a driver at Wimbledon. And the whole idea was that, she'd be running the players from Wimbledon to their various hotels and homes and all that kind of stuff, and get all the goss, on the inside story and all that. But despite the fact that she did it for 2 weeks and carry all the stars who were Wimbledon that year...
She never heard anything.
She didn't get one single line. Yeah. Not one single line.
She must not have been much of a reporter then.
Well, exactly.
That shows you should have not chosen her just for her looks.
Yeah.
You should have instead chosen her for her acumen.
Yeah, and on another occasion...
And presumably you were just giving favours to this girl in hopes of getting into bed with her.
I did have ambitions to have a sexual relationship with her, without a shadow of a doubt.
And you didn't see that in any way as a conflict of interest, being that you were the boss?
I thought that I would make her a star reporter, and she'd be so grateful, that she would want to...
So you want to hear the end of my story?
I thought you had heard the end, sorry.
No, you hadn't
heard
the
shrimping
end.
story.
No, the shrimping story.
Yeah, you got away with it, didn't you?
Yeah, we not only got away with it, but we actually managed to buy a consignment of the illegal shrimp.
Right.
And then we managed to hand over our evidence to the police.
Right.
Both in the US and in England.
Yeah.
And they all got arrested.
Really?
Yeah.
And did they come after you?
No, because I never knew who I was.
Well,
I had to set up a whole. I had to have a telephone number, because you know how you could get telephone numbers in the States which changed and moved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you could have a service, and lots of people had this service where you rang up and you got a strange voice on the end of the line. Yeah. So no, they never knew where I was, never knew who I was, and I did get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was pretty clever.
I was quite proud of that.
Yeah, quite proud. Yeah,
but it's quite a weird thing to have done, though.
Yeah, very weird. I mean, the great shrimp scandal.
Yeah.
That would go down down on your CV, wouldn't it?
Well, it would, because working for the Sunday Times Insight team actually was a real feather in anybody's cap, and you obviously never did, so you're just jealous.
How I busted the great shrimp scandal, down on the Jersey Shore.
Well, actually, I managed to save...
World-beating story. Yeah, Nobody's ever read it, of course, because it's such a load of...
No, it was in the Sunday Times.
But,
No, it was in the Sunday Times, and the reason that you, of course...
that boosted the Sunday Times circulation that week by about, one copy.
Actually, the Sunday Times circulation has always been relatively high. It hasn't really moved much, unlike most of the papers you've worked on, where you've ever worked on them, the circulation has been about 1 million less when you left.
No, not at all.
I mean, you can see how jealous you are of my, of my high-flying journalistic career.
How about this?
Because all you were a grubby hack. You were always just a grubby hack.
How about this? I once, again, when I was news supremo on the Daily Express, I once sent a guy down to Heathrow to get a job as a cleaner.
Yeah, but this is all about stuff you've sent other people to do. You haven't done it yourself.
No, but I masterminded them.
No, you didn't.
And I masterminded this one. I sent him down to Heathrow as a cleaner. He got a job as a cleaner, and then we got the classic picture of him sitting in the cockpit of the Concorde. He could have blown it up if he was a terrorist, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant story. And it broke.
It's a bit of an old one, that, isn't it?
No, it's
Everybody
not.
does that.
Well, I did it first. Everybody does it now, but I did it first. Let me tell you. And what happened was that on the day we published it, which was a Wednesday, I remember, it led the ITN 1 o'clock news, and we were feted all around the world for exposing this scandalous lack of security at Heathrow Airport. And I got an award for it.
Really?
Yeah, I got an award.
Oh, OK. What award did you get?
London Press Club Scoop of the Year.
Oh, yeah. Did you pick that up, did you?
I did, yeah.
Have you got the award still at home?
No, I gave it to Graham Dudman, who was the reporter.
Yeah, well, he actually got it, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he
got it, didn't he?
No, I got it.
It was given to him.
No, I got it.
No, it was given to him.
No, I got it. It's my idea.
Why do you have to keep telling lies about all this stuff?
No, don't tell lies. Don't tell lies.
Now, what about the Porky quiz?
Yeah, that's going to be on Canada.
Canada.
And the reason is that the
Royals... Canada.
Hey?
That's their national anthem. Canada. You've never heard it?
No, I've never heard it. No.
Well, I'm not going to ask you that question.
No, exactly, yeah. But it's because the Royals are there. They're wowing Canadian society. And remember, we are on the brink now of having to establish new trade deals with countries around the world.
Right, well, the basis of what? Brexit, you mean?
Exactly, including our former Commonwealth partners.
Maybe you can send them Sam Allardyce.
See, by the way, old Sarkozy, who wants to be the French leader again, right? You see that he's floated today the idea that, of course, if I become the El Presidente again, of the Fifth Republic, I will allow the British to...
Oh, he's German now, is he?
No, I will allow...
I will allow... Still sounds German.
He still sounds a bit German, yeah. I'm trying to do me French one, better French one. I will allow. But anyway...
That's back up to Celtic again.
He's saying...
And the time.
And so condescending, he's saying, I'll allow the British to just renounce Brexit. They can just stay in. That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's very nice for the 17 million people who voted to get out, isn't it? Yeah.
Jason says this, Porky's lost his marbles tonight. He must be on the Allardyce bad judgment Red Bull.
I think not.
Poor Mike Graham has to sit next to him.
I think not.
I think it's true, actually. You have been a bit weird tonight. You've been very quiet.
Not at all.
Very measured and very mad.
Yep, absolutely.
Anyway, we're almost at the end of the show.
Okay.
So Porky Vision tomorrow.
Porky Vision tomorrow.
You want to give us a tip as to what's coming up?
Well, Poldark will get a mention.
Poldark.
But a few other things as well. A few other things I've seen.
Okay.
That great bird, the osprey. Seen a great documentary on the osprey.
Okay.
It's fascinating.
All right, we'll hear about that as well. This is Talk Sport.
Don't forget to come back tomorrow for another sparkling, as fizzy as a bottle of champagne podcast from the two mics. Now, the thing is that not only are their powers of mass destruction almost absolute, it's compounded by their remarkable fertility, as well as their ability to swim. They do swim, right? They climb. Hey, what's wrong?
Deers of mass destruction.
Yeah, deers of mass destruction. They swim across rivers.
DMD.
They climb up trees.
Yeah.
And they dig deep holes under your hedge.
So they look like a dog. They bark like a dog. They climb up a tree like a bear.
Yes.
But they're not any of those things. They are, in fact, a deer. Like albino people are born albino, aren't they?
Yes.
You sure?
You can develop albinoism. You can, I'm sure. I'm sure, yeah. But no, hang on. So anyway, sorry.